That day the guy played the game as usual, and nothing strange happened. Well, almost nothing. Where did he end up, and since when has he been sitting on the floor? He asked the girl if she was okay. She was wondering what was going on here, and they were also dragged in without explanation. The guy was just summoned to another world, like in a manga or a game, and he found himself in a palace with others. Joseph Rodpaisnat is the king of this kingdom and greeted the brave heroes. Now it is in a difficult situation. Due to the proximity to the continent of demons, the guy got into one of the biggest cliches in games, so the arrivals were ordered to defeat the demon lord for them. The king speaks like an idiot and does not look like he is in a difficult situation. The man explains everything to them, and he wants to know the names of the guys. The main character is called Sakurai, the girl is called Takanashi, and the guy is called Watanabe. Finally, their long-time dream of summoning heroes has come true, and they believe in their potential to become much stronger than ordinary people. As His Majesty said, the kingdom of Peino is located right after the demon land. So they need brave heroes. They must become stronger and crush the evil demon lord. The man and the guards stood in front of them. The guy thinks he is being taken for a fool, and thank God those two are not particularly sympathetic to the king either. The brave heroes need to open their status windows so they can see the strength of the guys. All three of them were silent with questioning looks. How careless of him. They had never seen the status window before. Just say the right command and you can see the current state. This world is so similar to the game, it just makes the nerd's blood boil. Everyone opened their statuses and saw their names with all the data. This is the most imbalanced build he has seen. The guy has 3 skills, and due to the knowledge of languages, they can understand each other. Even if they are from different worlds and the dark-haired one works as a priest, the healing skill with regeneration is very useful. They had a healer in their kingdom. What a rare hero here, this was immediately noticed. There is an advanced job for a healer called a priest. He can heal any injury, no matter how serious it is. The man said to heal out of habit, but in this world, a healer is the initial job before a priest, while the guy will be a healer at first. The girl works as a sorcerer, and this is an advanced job for magicians. It says here, the guy is a hero. Mr. Watanabe is really a hero. They chose to work as a hero. The dark-haired one sympathizes with him. It seems like a big problem. But to be honest, of the 3 of them, this guy is the least like a hero. The guys can level up in any way along with their stats, and you can't forget about it. Increase in any way. What stats need to be increased? Can the current 50 points be used? The dark-haired one also already has glasses. It must be a gift from the gods because he is a hero. Usually, you need to level up for points. It's just like in games, what's the average value for stats here? Usually within 20 or 30, depending on the person's work. And if you manage to raise it above 50, then you become very strong and no one will object to a first-class master. 50 units are enough for the title of master, and how strong is a guy with 100 units of recovery? Most likely this is more than enough to never invest points in him again, and it would be worth checking. There is an old scar left on his arm after a car accident in childhood, and because of it, the guy never wore short-sleeved clothes. This is a great opportunity to test the skill. From my touches, the scar completely disappeared, and you can treat not only fresh wounds but old ones too, and you don't need to invest points in restoration. How should I distribute my points now? The healer should not die and be in a good position. With pumped healing skills, people increase protection from fatal damage. There is nothing wrong with dying faster than your allies. But it will be very boring, and the right decision is needed. Even with protection, you can get serious damage from enemy attacks. In the end, there is not enough mana for self-healing and healing your comrades. If you can't take damage, you can better support your allies, and this is the ideal path of a healer. You can defeat enemies faster and move forward faster. Sakurai put all his points into evasion. The guy really put all his points into dodging, and he should have put everything into recovery as a healer. Now even scratches can't be healed, and Sakurai will be a dead weight for these two. He should have consulted with the man before this. The dark-haired one will be fine with 100 units of recovery, the man shouted, and told him that a healer is a rare job. The king ordered him to be thrown into prison immediately. He is very angry. He thinks this guy is not worthy of being called a hero. The girl stood up for him and said that it was unfair to His Majesty. Sakurai could have had reasons to do this, and the king did not like the comments made towards him. The guard thinks that there is such a useless healer as Sakurai. Hit him with a cry of die. He missed the guy and didn't realize what happened. He deftly dodged the blow. The guard tried to hit him again and again with insults, but what the hell is he doing? Sakurai dodged again. The man tried to punch this useless idiot in the face, but he managed to dodge all the blows. The second guard didn't believe him. It was because the guy put everything into dodging that the guard wanted to test the useless healer's skills and kicked him. After another attempt and another miss, the guards are puzzled as to what is wrong with this guy, and he is just a healer. The two leave. Serves the useless soldier right for not even being able to hit the healer right, but what should they do about their hasty conclusions about Sakurai? If only they had checked the guy's status window, but the king was very angry after all this. They had to keep everything secret and think about escaping. Sakurai won't be able to move around freely outside and was summoned to a rather problematic place. What are these two doing there? The guy feels sorry for them. Sakurai lay down on his prison bed. He could think about the future and test his skills. For now, he opened his status. Do I need to be wounded to use healing? I would like to avoid harming myself, because the reason for choosing this build is the unwillingness to get injured and only regeneration remains. This is another basic spell from classic RPGs. The guy uses magic and just uses that power on himself. Sakurai feels a pleasant warmth, like during treatment, and does not know its effectiveness. How many times it will be possible to use this skill, and the sensations from using it are similar to relaxing in the sun. The guy doesn't feel any discomfort from repeated use and hasn't depleted his mana supply. There must be some limit to using this skill. His supply is probably huge. Sakurai can be the greatest healer of humanity. With his 100 points in the article, and the king doesn't know about it, there is no problem with healing abilities. I would like to have much more diverse skills. But he is still level 1, and in the future there will be a chance to raise it. The guy closed the status and this body puts him to sleep. You can wait a little longer before escaping and just sleep. The stranger is surprised that Sakurai can sleep in such a place. He must be very tired. After what happened, he has nothing more to say. Watanabe and Takanashi wished good morning to Sonya in response to his wish, both standing outside his prison cell. The king agreed to release the guy from prison, and they needed to leave this place as soon as possible. Sakurai wanted to say something, but didn't. 3 people were summoned to a completely different world where RPG leveling is the norm. The guy was asked how he was feeling, and the dark-haired one was completely fine. The guy generally doubts the sanity of the designer who decorated the royal room. It would be better to sit down and discuss all the known data at this point. The boy was offered some fruits to eat, and they started discussing about coming to this world to defeat the evil demon lord. The king would probably send them back home to their original time and place. After a successful battle, it all sounds a bit vague. A bunch of complete strangers are entrusted with such an important mission. Even after victory, they may not be sent back. Sakurai was afraid of the guy's condemnation towards him after the king's accusations. The guy is not so easily influenced by others, and from now on asked to be called simply Ren. And the girl's name is Ruri. The main character's name is Hiroki. Of course, there were comrades in the games, and this is the first time in real life, even with mistrust of the local people you need to maintain good relations with this kingdom, they definitely have a way to send the guys back. The girl is more interested in other races, and the inhabitants of this world can be divided into 3. They are in the kingdom of Peace Knot and is located on the continent of Loquat. There's the continent of demons Apricot, and Beastmen on the continent of Tangerine. Ask for magic from demons, for strength from beastmen, and for wisdom from humans. Humans have such a big advantage in knowledge of skills, and it is still dangerous to meet other races. The plan to just wait for the right moment sounds good. There is a chance to find clues on other continents, especially on the continent of Apricot with demons, and they are very good at magic. They explain the principle of how skills work. In this world, there are 3 types of skills. The first type is active all the time, and it is knowledge of language. Combat skills are activated when wearing special equipment or armor with weapons. Their strength depends on the level of defense and attack. The guy's skills belong to this type. With the help of magic skills, you can use the mana inside them and turn it into magic. The power of such skills depends on the level of magic and the level of recovery, which means you can't become a jack of all trades so quickly. They need to find out some information from people. The guy can't get rid of the feeling that there must be clues in other kingdoms, and how should he tell them about it? These 2 are going to stay in this kingdom and want to ask Hiroki for something. Does this mean the guy didn't finish his sentence? Sakurai is asked to forget about it, but that is exactly what needs to be done, and there is no reason to stay here. He needs to go outside to look for clues. The guy will definitely be fine. There are no problems with that. His target is a healer with perfect evasion. A healer with perfect dodge. Since he mentioned it, the guy is asked why he spent all his points on dodge, and that's why he was thrown in jail. They distributed their points. As they usually do here, the guy imagined everything the same way, and for some reason he spent everything only on dodging. Sakurai is able to avoid any attacks, and this makes him almost invincible. It's really clever. After all, the guy is a gamer. Now they are absolutely sure that Hiroki is ideal for the mission. It will be full of dangers, and they rely on the guy. Anything can happen after leaving the castle. The guy can't wait to see another world with his own eyes, and being a gamer to the core, of course it's a hassle. The guy is surprised by the king's decision to release the prisoner. Ren didn't want to talk about this, but he shouldn't hide anything from his comrades and showed his bracelet. The king promised freedom of movement as long as the boy wore the contract bracelet, and Hiroka thought it was a joke. Now Ren is not free at all, and he was forced to agree to the deal. The guy thinks that it's nothing serious. You just can't leave the kingdom without the king's permission. This king dares to treat the summoned hero as a pet. Without his rash decision, none of this would have happened, but he doesn't intend to apologize or anything. The guy has to wait for him, and he will find a way to remove this cursed bracelet. The girl will also search inside the kingdom. Ren is glad to be an ally of Hiroki and Ruri. Now we need to agree on a way to communicate with each other. We can use their names for this purpose, because the king only knows the last name of each. The messages with the names must be traps, and Hiroki was shown his things. You need to take the guys' things too. You can sell them if you need money. Hiroki is going on a very dangerous adventure, and he can only be given a pen and a notebook. The girl gave him a mirror and a handkerchief. The guy will definitely bring good news, and he needs to take care of himself. After Sakurai came out, he saw that the castle looked like the Middle Ages on Earth, as if he was literally in a classic RPG. It's already getting dark, and he needs to find a hotel, but first he needs to get some money and information. Now he'll go into the store to sell, and hasn't yet chosen what exactly. Sakurai doesn't want to sell Ren and Ruri's things. The battery on the phone will last as long as the power bank is alive. The guy has 3 small chocolates, and this is not enough. It is unlikely that anyone will want to buy them. Perhaps it will be possible to use them this way, and we need to find out more about this. Are there guilds in this world, like in RPGs, and why are people looking at him like that? Those clothes on Hiroki look weird. Need to buy new clothes ASAP. Healers and mages usually wear robes, but the guy likes clothes for easy movement. And where is the guild? Then only his status panel is written in Japanese. It turns out knowledge of the language does not work on text. A sudden end at the very beginning. A stranger came up to him and asked if everything was okay. Sakurai doesn't know the location of the guild. He is lost and confused that he is being helped like a little child. The girl also lost her friends and is heading to the Adventurers Guild. She recently defeated the slimes on her first quest and came back to get the reward, so they can go look for a guild together, and the guy can earn money by fighting, Tina was called, and one of them is named Floyd. These were the stranger's friends. Their names were Floyd and Dine. The girl suddenly disappeared, and they were very worried. Her friend asked who it was, another lost child, and looking for the guild, Hiroki introduced himself and was offered to go together. Floyd works as an adventurer, and the second one is called Dine. The girl's name is Tina. They asked about her health, and the team sets off on their way. This is the strangest building in the area, and it is hard to miss. It is the Adventurers Guild. It was in the form of very tall, large rocks. So this is the Adventurers Guild. It looks very reliable after all. In case of an emergency, it will become the headquarters. Monsters can get into the city. The last time this happened was about 100 years ago. You need to hurry and raise your level just in case. The guy entered the guild with everyone else, and wow, he's really here. Every gamer would dream of being here. Now they are going to report on the completed task, and Sakurai needs to register. He needs to go to that left counter. The guy can let you know if necessary. And Hiroku was met by a girl named Hala. It really is a beast man, and her cat ears are twitching. There is one in the human kingdom too. It is very rare to see beastmen here, and the girl at the counter turned out to be a half-breed. Sakurai apologized for the stare. He introduced himself and said he wanted to be an adventurer. Hiroki was here to register, and Hala would explain everything. The Adventurers Guild is a neutral force in relation to the 3 continents, and there are many representatives of all races. There are also demon adventurers here. Due to the endless attacks of monsters, every country needs all the guild's forces, and for this reason, you can cross any border by simply showing your adventurer ID card, and it is definitely convenient. After registering, you can take as many tasks as you want from that wall. Hiroki can't read their language. You can then get recommendations for tasks right at the counter, and those people do it too. It's better to be careful with the tasks. Many have lost their lives because they took more than they needed. No matter how much this world is like a game, It will all be over after his death. The guy will register. You need to fill out a form and pay a 3,000 lot fee. Sakurai can't read, and the girl will fill it out for him. The guy said he just left his village and has no money. The guild will be happy to buy his things, and he showed a rare sweetness in their world. The chocolate has very bright packaging. The girl has never seen anything like it before. She is very sorry, but it will be difficult to exchange chocolate for money. The guy suggests trying one. He can give the rest if he likes it, but in return, the girl will pay a registration fee if he doesn't like it. Sakurai won't demand money for what he ate. Hala sniffed and had never smelled anything like it before. She tried it, and the girl trembled all over. It's incredible, and the guy is happy about it. The chocolate immediately began to melt in his mouth. It's a little bitter and also sweet. They agreed. The girl would pay the registration fee and buy the rest. Sakurai thanked her. Hala needs to know the guy's profession and fighting style. Sakurai is a healer and has invested most of his points into recovery. With evasion, she wrote down the profession and asked again about his strength. Hiroki repeated his words. They asked if he had a group. The guy came here to look for allies. No one here would want to take the guy into the group. People like him are usually not very good at healing, and everyone knows it. No one needs them, but a healer with evasion is the best build. Hiroki will still register and is not going to leave. Sakurai wants to ask these people about a team with them. The guy talks to everyone, and they wish him luck. The dark-haired one thanks him for that. Sakurai would like to go around the world and join a really strong group. He is looking for a team to join, and if strangers need the services of a healer, he has a rare profession. This is not surprising. Healers are in high demand. The guy has no experience in fighting or working in a team. He won't have to be protected. Sakurai has a lot of dodge points, and the guy won't take any damage from attacks. Everyone was surprised by what they heard. He was refused to work on the team if only they could understand the full magnitude of evasion. They just need to find another team. The guy went to look for people again and introduced himself. He said what he did for a living and was currently looking for allies. This team consists only of vanguard fighters, and maybe you can join them. It would be great if Sakurai had a shield, and he only had healing skills with regeneration. In that case, we need to change their formation. It's not a problem. He's a healer with evasion, so this time I need to properly explain all the benefits of evasion. There is no need to protect him because no attacks can harm him. After receiving damage, he can be healed, and there will be no need to worry. The guys refuse to work with him, and they don't need another useless team member. This baggage is too big for an archer. Perhaps they were talking about her uselessness. It was expected, and the guy will have to carry luggage for another team. This is also not bad, and Sakurai forgot about his poor physical fitness. He is really confident in himself. You can still cancel the registration if you want, and the guy is interested in the location of monsters. You can stumble upon them outside the city or in a dungeon. You can pick up tasks without the presence of monsters. There are several quests, and it is too dangerous to go there alone. That is, there are very strong monsters there, which are called bosses. Sakurai will just look in there and be fine. There is one that is safe enough for a beginner. From the stone dungeon, you will need to bring some herbs. They will buy all the herbs they get, and there is no time limit for this task. Although it is possible to do it without fighting, there is a chance of being attacked by monsters, and the guy thinks everything will be fine. Let him be careful. Sakurai didn't know that the sun had almost set, and the guy was in dire need of money. Now Hiroki will go to the dungeon to collect herbs, then sell them and rent a room with the money from the sale. He slept a little in prison, and a night without sleep will not be a problem. This stone dungeon looks like there is no one there, and you can just go in. At first, it is difficult to find words to describe the dungeon. It is also well lit, and no monsters are visible. Creatures may be encountered on the further path. You need to make a map of this place on Ren's notebook. A slug appeared on the road and missed the traveler. This is very cool. The unknown substance bounced off the floor like a ball. Slugs are small fish, and you can defeat one. You just need to try to attack it. Hiroki swung his leg. Sakurai only has 1 point in attack, but he could easily beat this guy even with a little damage, and he needs to think more about his stats. Should he give up on killing the slime, and will he follow the dark-haired guy? There are already 2 of them, and you can just leave the slugs alone. They won't interfere while Hiroki collects herbs. He needs money for a room and clothes. He needs to earn a ton of money before he can start his adventures, and he may have to carry tons of that weed. The guy will show what 51 points in dodge is. He indulged in memories of what happened before. The slugs continued to attack. The body itself avoided all attacks, and the guy had already forgotten about the attacks. A ladder appeared ahead. Slimes cannot leave their floor. Monsters' movement is limited only to their floor, and it will be much easier than expected. If the skill allows, then you can go much deeper. On floor B2, a huge mouse appeared and missed in its attack. Then the same thing happened on floor B3 with a large beast resembling a wolf. From floor B8, they will attack in mixed groups. The guy came across the grass he needed. There are 2 types of herbs growing in the dungeon. The first one is called painkiller herb, and the second one is called medicinal herb, and it is more valuable. Time to collect some herbs. The other species does not grow here, and you can go further. The 10th floor looks more majestic. You can collect much more there. It was only necessary to say the word, and the guy found the medicinal herb. And what's more, a whole bunch of it. You can run away or trust the dodge and go see. Sakurai should not run away. He will return after the first damage, and now you need to go forward. This monster is definitely on another level. Who is this damn horned bear? He looks terribly scary, but the guy had already decided to go forward. Sakurai knew about such an upcoming situation. A huge horned bear attacks and roars, striking with its paw. Hiroki is shaking all over. All the blows fly past. It was unexpectedly easy. You can calmly continue collecting herbs. A bundle of 3 medicinal herbs costs 1,000 lots, and you can earn a lot on this easy task. It wouldn't be so easy if the guy was fighting a bear. The money from 20 packages should be enough for a room, and there are now 5 bears. Even if the bears can't hit, they're still scary. Sakurai saw a door ahead, and it either leads to the boss room or it's a treasure room. Hiroki won't be back until the first damage. He easily dealt with 5 bears and can deal with the dungeon boss. These guys were aiming straight for the head. My god, this room literally screams boss room. In front of Sakurai was a monster that roared loudly and resembled a boar. It was an orc. These monsters are the first to appear in games, but seeing one like this is scary as hell. And again, after the first blow missed, the monster swung his bat in different directions and could not understand what was happening. The guy started to mock the orc. Let him come when he grows up, and even though he doesn't lose. The monster is stuck in the passage and can't catch up with the guy. In this world, it is unthinkable to pass the boss room. Without defeating him, Sakurai found a treasure chest. The magic circle is probably a teleporter. This is a low-level dungeon, and in it is a small wooden chest. There was a book in it. Maybe it's a magic grimoire, or inside the recording of a great adventurer. The book was empty. What kind of trash is this? He wanted to throw it away, but Sakurai needed to pull himself together. This was a different world, and this book might need to be read in a special way. That is, in games, sometimes they require certain things just to read a book, earn 4 medals, and now it's better to just remove it. What to do with a magic circle? Is it a teleport or a trap? Should I enter? Or is it better to leave? The guy crossed the line where the circle is located, and suddenly something started to happen. Sakurai moved to another place where there are many people, and it's already morning. Is this the entrance to the dungeon? You need to return to the guild with the items you find, and there are a lot of people here, from newbies to veterans, and it's a little harder to play games all night. In the Adventurers Guild, the girl met Hiroki. Thank God he is safe, and Hala thinks the guy gave up the crazy idea of going alone, but he did not give up, or then the dark-haired man found a team on the way and joined them. The guy is here to trade grass. The girl is surprised by the large amount of loot. This medicinal herb is incredibly difficult to obtain. It is of perfect quality, and the guy didn't even fight, and he didn't fight. The girl thinks Hiroki found a very strong group, but he got it alone with his evasion skills. Hala didn't understand anything at all, and the guy's methods were probably so strange. For 20 bundles of medicinal herbs and 10 bundles of pain-relieving herbs, the guy was paid 25,000 lots. He thanked the beast girl. With this amount, he could buy things. The guy also has an empty book that was lying in the treasury. Literally all the pages are blank. Was she speechless because it was just trash? Sakurai also thought it was useless junk, and it turned out to be a skill book. The guy will be able to get the skill, but isn't it empty? The book with the brown cover is the least valuable kind. But even so, it costs 10,000 lots. Now he needs to decide whether to use the book or sell it. The guy decided to use it. The new skill is much more valuable than money, and the girl wants to teach the guy how to use it. First, you have to put your hands on the cover, he repeated after her. Next, you need to use any of your skills. The book will absorb mana, and Hiroki will receive a new skill. The guy understood everything. He did everything as he was told, and magic began to happen. Everything around the main character began to shine. He got the shield skill. He remembered what was said. With a shield, you can relax, and this was said by one of the groups. In a team, this skill would be very useful. Hala asked if the guy had received a new ability. She congratulated him on the acquisition and clapped. Hiroki will definitely become a great adventurer. The guy without a group shows amazing growth, and those chocolates were weird. It can't be said that Sakurai is a summoned hero from another world. For them, he is an ordinary guy from a neighboring country. From the country called Japan, and it's time to go. If necessary, you can turn to Holly for advice. You need to try something and then go to the hotel. The shashlik seller called the young man to him. He had spent the whole night in the dungeon without food or water. One piece costs 300 lots and he took 3. These spices perfectly emphasize the taste of the meat, and it is simply delicious, the kebab maker agreed. This place looks like a market. The guy bought some juice and sat down to rest. Here almost all are people, and there are not many beastmen. Everywhere there is a mixed population, and at least this is a kingdom of people. In another world, I want to know more about its population. Are there high elves here besides that girl from the guild? When meeting Sakurai, we'll definitely understand whether she is an elf and open the status. The guy really has a new skill and needs to test it. Near the city, an elderly woman noticed Hiroki's unusual clothes, and the dark-haired man said she was from his homeland. You need to buy new things. She has simple clothes for a young guy. Sakurai picked out what he needed. The fabric is thin and can be used for leisure. The guy also needs a bag. Altogether, it will be 2,800 lots. And now we can test our new skill. The slugs haven't changed since the last time they met. He wants to make pets out of them. A layer of light has appeared around the guy's body. Hiroki calls out to the slugs to let them all admire his shield. The slug attacks and also flies past. Sakurai always dodges and can't check the shield. Will there be any benefit from the new skill? And he can't go home with such a glow. The shield will work until the enemy guy gets hit. And is there anyone stronger? Newbies Tina and Dine are training nearby, and what is Floyd doing? It doesn't look like he's anywhere nearby. They try to raise their levels. But is it really that hard? The slug is attacking. The monster is heading towards Tina. Hiroki has to protect her. He used the shield. The slug bounced off the instant protection. The guy's shield works well. The girl was surprised. Tina was given the order to attack. She used fire magic. The slime was defeated with difficulty. It was a relief that Tina was okay, and it was time to leave. The guys noticed Hiroki and called him. So it was he who saved them. Many thanks to the guy. Hiroki confirmed their guess. The dark-haired one was glad that he saved them and said hello to the guys. You can just call them by their names. You can also just call him Hiroki, even if he is older. But aren't they the same age? Dane is 15 and Tina is 13. Hiroka is already 19. The guy looks younger than his age. It's so problematic. Dane thought they were the same height, and therefore the same age. Hiroki was told to watch out. There are 3 slugs here. Should he run away or defend himself, and why is he standing there? A monster is flying from behind and everything will be fine with the guy. The slug missed. Hiroki dodged again. His body definitely sways a little, but is it really dodging? The guy even got the skill book with it, and was that even possible? The guy asked the guys to help kill the slugs. He lacks strength, it's a little annoying, and both agreed. If the guys kill them, they will help a lot. And being in a group is great. Hiroki would like to form his own group. Need to attack the slime. Dane noticed that the guy was really good at dodging. Hiroki was happy to meet the guys and was sad about the failure with the slugs. It was not a problem. The girl ran out of mana. Sakurai wants to cure Tina. She says everything is fine and is just tired. She is exhausted from using a lot of skills or knowledge. Using the shield is a bit of a hassle. As soon as you activate it, it starts glowing. Perhaps the guy used the shield in a hurry and forgot to set it up. You can control the power of your spells by the amount of mana you spend to use them. The shield protects against 5 hits, and you can increase the strength of the shield by reducing the number of hits. The glow really did disappear. The shield's power would be distributed between the 2 of them. Daini called the guy strange. Hiroki is much stronger than the 2, but still doesn't know the basics. Yes, this is the widest yawn that Dane has ever seen. The guy just hasn't slept since yesterday. After that, you need to look for a hotel, and he was offered one. There are clean rooms with excellent food, and the guys are staying there too. Floyd is probably still sleeping after yesterday's drinking, and this is a clear example of a hopeless adult. Why are they sitting here? They can go to the hotel, and the guy will carry Tina on his back. She is completely fine and refuses. The guys wanted to hunt a little more. Didn't the girl run out of mana? She recovered a little during the rest. Then Hiroki will go to the hotel alone. Dine thinks the guy is incredible. Tina has never seen anyone fight like that. The guy woke up on a hotel bed and wished good morning to the employee. She is sure that Hiroki slept well. He didn't understand why it was now noon when he fell asleep in the morning. Sakurai slept all day and was very exhausted yesterday. The guy was served breakfast and it was simply delicious. Hiroki had never eaten anything like it. He was Floyd's friend. The guys are so nice to him. Floyd seems quite pushy to the woman. And their group stays at this hotel. Often, they recently left. And the guy was given a dish on the house. And if a guy is not sure about something, he can ask. The woman will do everything possible to help. The guy needs a gear store, and the girl goes to draw the guy a map. These desserts are just delicious. This store really looks good. Inside, everything looks quite elegant. The goods seem very attractive. Hiroki was met by a gnome. He finds Sakurai's outfit strange. He asks the guy's class, and if he is an adventurer, the guy is looking for comfortable clothes for dodging. A healer who can dodge any attack better than anyone. Doesn't the man think so? And the boy was called a strange boy. No team wants to accept Sakurai, and he thought it was a great idea. According to the seller, the guy made the biggest mistake of his life. He shouldn't have played with his characteristics and forgotten about the profession of an adventurer. Hiroki doesn't regret spending everything he has on evasion, but what will he achieve on his own? It seems the guy is prepared for the worst and doesn't care about being alone. The old man also thinks that his idea of evading isn't so bad. Sakurai will find those who understand him. This old man can root for the guy, and the monsters will become stronger. They will fight even more fiercely with heavily armored adventurers, and there are many ways to confront them. Even if it is a high-level adventurer and does not invest points, the evasion will always be equal to 1. The old gunsmith agrees with the guy, and it will not be easy to find a team. Hiroki has about 15,000 lots, and that's only enough for unenchanted equipment. Enchanted items cost at least 50,000 lots. That increases your stats. Dwarves are the best at blacksmithing. The guy knew it. He was a real dwarf. He didn't know about the enchanted equipment. If you touch them, you can understand what was said. The guy needs equipment that increases evasion. The old man wants to talk about it. Sakurai really thought that the old man had such junk, and there was no need to look at it like that. But the dwarf could make something like that, especially for the guy. Then Hiroki will earn some money. For now, he needs 50,000 lots. The dwarf wanted to stop the guy, and he dodged. Sakurai has enough money for unenchanted equipment, and goes to choose it. You can enchant it for evasion later, when the guy saves up money. The guy needs to choose what he likes. His niece did everything. Their views differ regarding design and functionality. The equipment chosen costs more than 15,000, but the guy will get a discount, as if it was tailored for him. He doesn't look like a healer at all. Sakurai pretends to be a healer, when in fact he is a priest. The guy will go collect herbs, and soon there will be money. Hiroki goes to the slime cave, and the guy didn't know about it. It's a dungeon, in which there is no one except slimes, and there are many different herbs growing there. At first everyone thinks this is a gold mine. The slimes are attacking in such numbers that there is no time left to collect herbs, and Sakurai is interested in the location of this dungeon. At least once a year, newcomers die there. It's scary, so it's better to abandon this idea. Sakurai is confident in his dodge, and he will be fine, but it is better to collect herbs near the entrance. The guy paid for the equipment. Is the guy interested in accessories? He needs them to conclude contracts. It is incredibly difficult to find, and Sakurai just needs the principle of destroying such contracts. Then he goes to the slug cave, and the old man reminds Sakurai not to forget his advice. Let him not even think about going inside the cave. There are warning signs everywhere, and thanks to them, it is easy to find the cave. It does not look dangerous at all. Just look at all this. How cute. Time to go inside. Sakurai entered. This is the first floor of the slime cave. He found several monsters at once. This cave is really full of herbs, and my uncle didn't lie that this is the best place for herbs. Also about the number of slimes, and on this floor, it is difficult to find anything except painkiller herbs. Should the guy go down lower, he needs to collect near the entrance. He wants to keep his promise. To enchant the armor, you need 50,000 lots, and the guy paid for a night at the hotel. Now he doesn't have enough money. You can't make big money with the painkiller herb, and now Sakurai doesn't have a penny to his name. There is no other choice but to go down to the floor with the healing herb, and the slimes cannot follow you to the next floors. You can collect the herb near the stairs. In any case, we need to find the stairs as soon as possible. Hiroki went to do it. In such a short time, the number of slimes increases, and it starts to get annoying. There is still a group of slimes ahead, more of them than expected. There are already about 20 monsters, and the guy may not be able to dodge them. Now there is no more important goal than to earn money. Finding her wasn't that hard. Sakurai still doesn't know the limits of his dodge, even though he dodged the boss of the stone dungeon. Now is the best time to find out. He wants to know exactly how many slimes he can dodge, and he should try not to go too far from the stairs. And where do all these new monsters come from? Perhaps they are capable of dividing endlessly? Are they even reproducing now? It's weird. Why did everything around become blurry? Could it be because of the shield that was used earlier? The shield is still active, even though the guy cast it the day before yesterday, and it's no longer possible to dodge with protection. There are about 30 slimes here, and it's not that easy to dodge them all. Hiroki doesn't want to end up like those adventurers his uncle talked about, and it's time to end the experiment. A huge pile of monsters suddenly appeared around the guy. Slimes filled most of the space. Sakurai did not expect this. The monsters hit the guy hard. Their attacks were stronger than he could have imagined. Sakurai needs to get out of here, and how many of them are here, although they are very cute, they will still give me nightmares. Hiroki ran to the stairs. Monsters can't get to another floor. It was scary. Now he knows the limit of his dodge. He shouldn't have underestimated the slimes. The guy accidentally created a whole cave full of slimes. For some reason, there was not a single monster on the second floor, and there was only medicinal herb. He finally found it. On the way, I met a slime, and it looks different. These are hands or ears, but these are wings, and it is so cute. The monster uses a skill and flies around Hiroki. He hit him. The guy screamed. He can't move. Sakurai is paralyzed. Treatment does not remove the monster's magic. To remove debuffs, you need another spell. In the city, you definitely need to buy something that such a strong slime does on the second floor. Just need to be calm. The shield is still activated. Did the monster miss? Because of the debuff, the body should not move even a millimeter. Evasion was activated even in this case, and how strong it was. The poor slime's pride was completely trampled. But no matter how much you want to feel sorry for the monster, the paralysis effect is almost over. The guy will win this battle. Slime was just waiting for the effect to wear off. The only way the guy could survive was to starve to death. That couldn't be allowed to happen. But even so, he has no way to attack the monster the unknown want to stop him on the way. There's someone here. Hiroki is asking them for help. It's Tina's team. He and Floyd were able to get here. What the hell is the guy doing here alone? It's very dangerous. Is Hiroki okay? Floyd needs to watch out for the flying slime, so he beat the guy. Let Sakurai not worry. Now the team will take care of him. Dine will check the surroundings, and Tina will use fire. Floyd sees the guy dodge for the first time. Hiroki's a real master at this. He is very strange. Well, Floyd will be told about this later, since first they need to defeat all the monsters he struck. Even though the monster doesn't even think about attacking Hiroki. Despite all the damage it took, it's still alive. Floyd was attacked by a slime. The guy quickly reacted and healed it. The fighter is grateful to the healer. The flying slime was defeated, and they did it. Hiroki is fine. It's time for the guys to go back. They asked the guy how he was feeling and gave him a potion for paralysis. It was very bitter. The guy jumped up so strongly, and that means he's okay. Hiroki is incredibly happy to see everyone. He already thought he would die there. Dane really wanted to go to the lower floors. The girl was scared, but she was happy about what happened. Dine was very helpful. This cave is a very dangerous place. And the guys came here, for some reason, the lower levels are perfect for training with several opponents, and the slimes just above are just incredible. There were still slimes at the entrance, and they were chasing the guy before he came here. Why didn't he just kill them? Hiroki moved strangely while fighting the monster. Hiroki can dodge any attack and can't deal any damage. He came to such a dangerous place with the inability to kill anyone, no one would take him into their team with his powers. It's too funny for Floyd, and the monsters are like a slime buffet. You can't attack them on the stairs. It will be difficult to get out. There's nothing to be done. It has to be done. Tina wants to give the bracelet to Hiroki. This is the band's bracelet. Hiroki resembles a complete newbie. With it, all points earned will be distributed equally. It's like Tina's Dinah Floyd also have them under their gloves. Finally, Hiroki will be able to get some experience. You can start lighting it up. The guy used the shield. Hiroki was thanked for it. All the slimes were defeated or escaped. The guys will get much less experience than expected. The guy got the second level. Dina was very surprised by this information. Is the guy completely sure that he was not mistaken? Floyd asked Hiroki if he wanted to join them. The guy didn't expect such an offer. This is a great idea, and the guy even doubted it. He is a healer with evasion. The guys are absolutely sure. Hiroki suggested that they become stronger together, so they could learn much more about this world. Tina spoke to the guy very enthusiastically. They'll take care of Sakurai. It's time to have a drink and have a welcome party. You won't get bored with the guys. The guy got the gifts of the summoned heroes and thought that he would create a team with them, but he joined others. And this is also a good option. It's time to continue their hunt. And the team has divided the group members. This makes sense, although usually there is hardly a guard. The guy is happy to join the group. He put all his points into evasion for more efficient work. In the ranks, Hiroki feels absolutely useless. The guy wants to go ahead. He can dodge everything, but Dane is normal and will forgive him for leaving it to him. Let Hiroki listen carefully. The vanguard is his duty. The guy spoke very seriously. Even with Hiroki's dodging power, Daine still has to protect the entire team. Sakurai feels a little out of place. The team should have seen by now how useful his shield and dodge are. It would be like they were completely denying the guy's build's usefulness. The slime attacked him again. The dark-haired one can really dodge anything. Daine went on the offensive. Hiroki shouldn't interfere. Tina is also in the rear guard. They are shouting at her to watch out. Tina will be fine, because the whole team was shielded and the monster bounced off the girl. Daine needs to cool down a bit. Having a healer is so convenient, we can't let their shields break down. In the evening at the hotel, the shooting star guy was so tired. Daine was also exhausted and could not fight at full strength. Even after the battle, the guys continued to argue. Next time he'll give it his all, and the guy shouldn't overwork himself. Daine's just a sweet idiot. The team drinks to the new member of their group. The guy was given beer, and he still can't drink. This hotel is good, not only for beer. The table is worth the money. Floyd started talking about rumors in the kingdom. There is a hero there. Have they already started talking about Ren? There is a hero in this kingdom. Everyone wants to meet him at least once. Have rumors about Ren already spread? They were called up just a few days ago. Where did Floyd hear about it? Hiroki is also apparently interested in the hero, and every child would like to become a hero. Sakurai can't tell about his summoning. Daine heard that the summoned hero is currently trying to level up. He recently went to a very dangerous dungeon, where there were many traps and monsters with various debuffs. A strong curse was placed on him. The hero was cursed. Daine hopes he took that terribly expensive cleansing potion with him. Floyd is always drinking and easily passes out from intoxication. That same night, the boy went to the stone cave, and why at such a late hour? It's very simple. Sakurai didn't have a penny left. While he crawls and collects grass, Ren and Ruri raise levels in dangerous dungeons. After the summoning, they should have already received bonus points and everything should be fine with the guys. They won't risk their lives recklessly. Maybe the king forced them to do this. Sakurai wants to become stronger and needs to level up. The guy only has 1 point. If the healer doesn't spend points on recovery, then he's just trash. Before getting the title of master, everyone focuses on one skill. But to get it, you need to invest 50 points. Uncle probably encouraged Sakurai because of his stubbornness, and with such points, the guy would be perceived as a monster. The next morning, Floyd felt bad after yesterday and he passed. Everything was left to Din. But it's okay, and this happens often. Hiroki didn't get a minute of sleep last night. The guys first want to go to the Capital Guild. They still need to take a couple of quests. The grass that was collected was of excellent quality, and a message was left on the bulletin board for Sakurai, which was left by Ruri, this high school girl who was also summoned to this world, and Hiroki and Ren decided to protect her. The guy will be expected in 2 days at the Plum Bar. The message was left yesterday, so the meeting should take place tomorrow night. She is asking for a meeting so soon. Hiroki is ready, and they go to the stone cave. Together, this is the first trip to the dungeon without Floyd. With Sakurai, the team has nothing to fear. Even though he was here last night, the guy will mark this place on the map. Sakurai noticed the shortest route to the stairs, and it is too dangerous to go to the second floor alone. Don't they need to practice yesterday's formation? They will do it. Hiroki goes there too, and the team goes forward with a song. The wild rat was defeated. Now the adventurers are slowly and surely honing their teamwork. In the future, they will be a great team. The guys are moving forward after the death of all enemies. A member of another team yells at his ally. They met with Hiroki's team. The guy was able to find a team for himself after all. The other members gather on the lower floors. The girl says to stop teasing the poor boy. They will see each other on the next floor, and that girl really is an elf. Hiroki doesn't really know them. He just exchanged a few words with them in the guild. They were a strong team. They spent the whole day on the second floor fighting rats. The next day, the guys, together with Floyd, honed their teamwork. After sunset, the guy still had things to do, and they should go first. At the bar, Plum Ruri's son Hiroki, it was him she was waiting for. The girl had just arrived. Judging by the new clothes, the guy is doing well. Sakurai is making good money on herb gathering quests. There are rumors about the hero, and he is leveling up in very dangerous dungeons. They have monsters that can cast very strong curses, and you have to be careful. Ren was the one who was cursed. After that, a strange spot in the form of a snake's trail suddenly appeared on the guy's body. The curse slowly consumes his body and will eventually kill Ren. The purification potion had no effect. The king says he is looking for a cure, but in reality he is doing nothing, and the girl decided to look for it herself in the royal library. Hiroki will ask other adventurers in the guild. The guy would never let Ren die. The three of them came into this world together, and the three of them will return. Now the king has only ordered to raise their levels, and the guys agree with this. And what level is the girl now? She hunted with Ren. Ruri received several new skills. A cute kid is having a good time. Two drunks ask to join in. They pester the girl. Hiroki asks the two men to stop. They are surprised by this and try to drive the guy away with curses. He dodged the drunk's blow, and the guys were about to leave. The men stopped them and started pestering them again. In response to the annoying people, the girl used magic, earth and wind magic. These two men looked like little puppies compared to her children. Hiroki thought she was another fragile girl, and perhaps she was the most dangerous one. Ren was cursed by a monster. If nothing was done, he would die within a few months. Doesn't the guy know a way to remove the curse? There are potions for this, and they are divided into 3 types, basic and standard with advanced. Better advanced potions exist and can be found in dungeons, or ordered from the Science Academy. The ingredients are extremely difficult to obtain and almost impossible to order. The chests will be empty until the boss is killed and the guy fails. Nothing else will help. Perhaps the demons have made progress in their research into removing curses, the boy asked again. Demons are usually more knowledgeable about magic and curses. The demon continent is filled with magic. Many researchers and alchemists are drawn there. That's why there are a lot of research labs there. That's how it is. The guy introduced the demon. There should be demon books in the guild, and you can ask there. The guy was going to go there before the mission. Tina wants to go with him, and that would be great. Well, Hiroki and Tina are going how to remove the spell. The potion can be found in the dungeon, or bought in the store and academy if you need skills. That is, high-ranking books. To get a skill book, you need to go to a dangerous dungeon, and now it's impossible. They have a demonic book on pharmaceutics. Tina was given the book she needed. Why couldn't she have offered it earlier? His Majesty the King has prejudices against demons. It is clear that Ruri was unable to find anything, since she was looking in places under the king's control. The guild is a neutral organization, and they have such books, but such things cannot be shown openly, and no one offered such books without asking. This kingdom is eager to defeat the demons. To brew the potion, they definitely need the apricot grass. It contains a large amount of mana. It is a medicinal herb and grows in some special regions that were only found on the demon continent, Floyd said so. There are demons living on the continent of Apricot. This herb is definitely there. I need to tell Ruri about it. The demon continent. Tina wants to go there when she becomes a strong adventurer. She definitely has a chance of doing this. At this rate, it will take a year or 2. The girl's looking forward to it, and this is too long for Hiroki. There are many dangers on the demon continent, the guy thought, so there was no point in dragging the team into this. Hiroki gave the guys a shield. Now Dane can work with Hiroki. Today they will go to the 5th floor. The monsters haven't appeared yet. The cave is so quiet. There are a lot of adventurers here. Going to the demon continent can be problematic. The main ones are money and firepower. Maybe hire a strong adventurer. The girl noticed the guy's thoughtful look. She asked what was bothering him. Tina and Hiroki are asked to use magic. They apologized and responded to the request. Even with a small number of monsters, you should not let your guard down. Now you can rest a little. Tina offered the guy some water. Floyd noticed the lethargy of his ally. Once again, they crossed paths with that team that looks really bad, and Dane has a bad feeling about this. The adventurer reacted aggressively to the presence of the boys. They are wounded, but they do not need to be treated. The two began to climb the stairs, leaving the girl behind them. She fell to her knees from fatigue. Hiroki rushed towards her. The adventurer showed disrespect to his ally, considering her useless. Still, he took all the things from the elf. The guy thought it was a gesture of kindness. The adventurers would go on without the girl, Hiroki exclaimed in complete bewilderment. The elf asked to stop. Her allies did not react. Floyd stood up for the girl. The adventurer does not see a problem in this. He would like to get out as soon as possible. The team immediately went to help Lucia and gave her water, asked about her health, and Hiroki began to treat the girl. This team, they are just disgusting. Sakurai was angry about what happened. The girl thanked him for his help, and she is already feeling better. The elf's name is Lucia Plum, and she is an archer. The guy is counting on the girl in case of trouble. All the guys introduce themselves. How can you leave a comrade in a dungeon? Being a member of that gang is the worst. The girl thinks she caused a lot of problems, even put them in danger, and didn't even think that the team would abandon her. The girl put all her points into attack and forgot about accuracy. With low accuracy, you can hit allies. So she became a porter. It is possible that there will be no group that will accept such an archer. The guy has déjà vu. There are monsters that need to be hit with one shot or they will become dangerous, and the girl was hunting near her village. Lucia had already killed monsters and shot until she hit. There is a problem that the girl can get into the allies, and Hiroki will help with this. He will bring a couple of monsters, and Lucia needs to get ready. The girl is asked to simply attack, and the guy will dodge. If she is worried, then you can use a shield. Everything is fine and you can continue shooting, no need to worry. Hiroki deftly dodges. The moles are also trying to attack. The archer is aiming at the monsters. Sakurai is still continuing to train the girl. Lucia takes aim and finally defeats her opponents. One is killed, even two. The girl is so happy. There are still 3 monsters left. Lucia continued to aim. The elf will join their group, and with Hiroki present she can be useful. On the demon continent with a bunch of dangerous monsters they need to get the apricot grass, they can't let the team follow Sakurai to such an unsafe place. Hiroki switches places with Lucia and needs to go on a trip. The team allowed him to join, and he is grateful. Sakurai told him the destination. Floyd and his team can't go with him, and Hiroki doesn't want to get involved in all this. It concerns the lives of his friends, and he doesn't have much time. In this case, Tina wants to go together. Floyd stops her. They will only interfere with the guy. It's okay. There's no need to worry about the girl's tears. She'll become stronger. And wait for Hiroki. He's leaving right now. The team will hunt together for the last time. They need to show all their abilities. It would be necessary to change the settings of Lucia's bracelet and think about the formation. Without Hiroki, Lucia attacks at a long distance or covers the rear. With a close attack, the battle goes as usual. This formation needs to be tried. The girl will shoot a bow. Hiroki will support for the last time. As the group progressed through the dungeon, they began to interact better, and the girl could shoot continuously. Although Lucia's accuracy is unimaginably low, her one-shot kill ability makes up for it. Tina will also work hard, and the mini-orcs were defeated. More monsters have appeared. Dane won't be able to attack the constantly advancing orcs. Tina uses fire magic. The monsters are already close and are behind. They attack the guy. The girl can attack. The interval between attacks is too long. Lucia needs to shoot faster. The girl is afraid to aim at a person. It's pointless to aim at them. It's better to shoot straight at Hiroki. Doesn't she want to try? Lucia understood everything. This time she will shoot more professionally. The arrows fly so fast. The guy dodged everyone, and the girl was surprised. Sakurai said that they would have fun together, but he was leaving soon, and Tina had to work harder. The guys have grown so much these days, and you can leave without regrets. Tina doesn't look well. She might need some treatment. All the mini-orcs were defeated. The girl suddenly fell to the floor from fatigue. Hiroki began to heal Tina. She ran out of mana. It's not life-threatening. She just spent more than necessary. The girl spent all her strength and lost consciousness. Tina wanted to show herself, and that's why she was so reckless. Hiroki will carry her to the very top, and even if he is not confident in his endurance. Now is not the time to think about such things. The guy has a determined expression on his face. Tina was on his back. The guys left the cave as a team, and the girl was still being carried. She just wants to go with the guy. Tina muttered to everyone. Now you can rest, everything will be fine. With Tina, she just spent all her mana, and she will feel better after resting. The girl became very attached, and did not want to accept the fact that Hiroki was leaving. She wanted to show herself, and overdid it. The guys will sell the materials and take the girl to the hotel. How does the girl feel after what happened with that group? She just didn't fit in with that team. But with Floyd's team, the elf feels different. Even if the guy leaves, the girl will suit them perfectly. Hala met adventurers. Lucia was abandoned by the group in the dungeon, and now she is in Floyd's group. These guys will have to be reprimanded. The girl thinks this is a blessing in disguise. Could Hala buy these materials? 15,000 lots in total. She was thanked for her work. The guys took Lucia into their group. Now the leader of her previous team is interested in this. A useless member could be accepted by an equally useless guy with evasion. It seems the adventurer is very angry. But Hiroki is not useless. Lucia stood up for the guy. Now he'll show how useless Hiroki is. The guy took a swing at them. They better stop, because fighting is prohibited in the guild. Hiroki is impossible to hit due to his high stats. The enraged adventurer had already started to take out his weapon. The guy took it out. Everyone immediately got scared. Hala closed her eyes. The adventurer swung. Now Hiroki got it. The bully is the only one who got here. He will be very upset by the revocation of the license. The guy looks upset. The elf turned away from her former ally's gaze, but oh well, he didn't need her that much. People were sure that Hiroki would lose. Many were worried about the elf. The guys want to celebrate, and the guy is treating them today. Their comrade was injured in the dungeon. They are very worried about her, and Hiroki thanked the man for saving him. He is glad that the girl is feeling well. Tina wants to become stronger with Hiroki, and since when is he so important to the girl, she will be useful to him. The adventurer does not want to be separated. Dine and Floyd sat by Tina's bed. She had passed out from magical exhaustion. The conversation about Hiroki leaving was not a dream. The girl spent too much mana and lost consciousness. Hiroki must be fed up with this, and she shouldn't worry so much about it. Tina is so worried about being separated from her ally. It's not always possible to live your whole life with someone dear to you, and you need to be grateful for the time spent together. She told Hiroki about her strength, and there is no time to waste on tears. The guys didn't sleep all this time because of the girl. There is still time before dawn, and the guys need to rest. The girl does not need to be so reckless anymore. The team will see each other tomorrow. Hiroki is glad that the girl is feeling well. She apologizes for the inconvenience. She just needs to be more careful next time. Even after leaving, the guy should not forget about the team. Hiroki is glad to meet the girl in this world and is sincerely grateful. He will devote all his free time to Tina. The boys were very worried and went to bed late. The girl woke up and they will bring her breakfast. Now, Tina has a request for the woman. In gratitude for yesterday, the girl wants to cook breakfast for Din and Floyd herself. This request seems selfish to her. The woman is surprised by such a request. It's so sweet, and she will give the girl a couple of tips. The breakfast prepared by Tina. The kids will really like it. Hiroki will go to the guild for information on how to get to the demon continent. The guy will leave their group right now. Now he will stay at the hotel for the night. After finding the apricot grass, the guy will immediately return and apologize for leaving so quickly. It would be great to find this grass faster. We must do everything possible to remove Ren's curse. The king bound the hero with a one-sided contract, and ultimately the guy received a deadly curse. Hiroki will not allow the king's wishes. Suddenly, an elf asked Sakurai if he would take her as his partner. This was an unexpected offer. Will Hiroki take the girl as a partner, but the demon continent is dangerous, and the guy said so, but only next to Sakurai Lucia can fight at full strength? The main character had the same thoughts. Lucia is well armed, and with the guy, friendly fire won't be a problem. The perfect partner. Here he is so close. The guy is really happy with her offer, but the girl is already in Floyd's group, and you can't make such a decision alone. You don't have to worry about it, and the team member has already woken up. As a companion, Lucia is most suitable for Hiroki, and is that bad? To test compatibility, you can go to the dungeon together. The monsters in the underground levels of the Morifukaki dungeon are similar in strength to their demonic counterparts. If the girl doesn't mind it, then you can try. Floyd needs to eat and calls Miss. The girl asks to wait and will keep her fingers crossed for these two. This will be a great team. Hiroki thanked Tina. To get to Morifukaki, you need to take that carriage over there. She is so big, and how does Lucia always have arrows? For this, the girl has a bracelet. The ability to create an arrow allows you to embody arrows, and the number depends on the rarity of the bracelet. It must be made of very precious metals, since the girl can create so many arrows, and Lucia does not know its name. Now one less mystery, and the elf will try her best. It takes about half an hour to get to the dungeon, and the Morifukaki map is only filled up to the 15th floor. The map only shows places familiar to adventurers. You can have fun. The guys are here for the first time, and they need a map. The elf will buy some more food. They need something to attract monsters to them. And why does Hiroki need this? So the monsters won't attack the girl, and they can easily gather the creatures in a bunch to make it easier to shoot, and the seller has this. After that, all the monsters will attack only the guy. One bottle costs 2,000 lots, and it is quite expensive. One bottle is enough for about 3 hours, and you can collect more materials for sale. Hiroki drank the contents of the bottle, and he's fine. It's a ridiculous price to attract all the monsters, and it's very crowded again. The boys seemed to be in a forest. Everything was so beautiful around them, and a killer moth appeared on the boys' path. They're on the 7th floor stairs. The guys are completely exhausted because of the moth swarm. The guy did a great job, and they really hate him. It's not Hiroki. The girl just hates moths. The monster-attracting potion works great, and you can kill a lot of creatures with it. In just an hour, they have come this far, and the difficulties will definitely increase. It is unknown which floor is the last one, and the guys initially did not think about how many potions exactly they need. Trying to reach the boss with this is too risky, and they will only spend 1.5 contents on the descent. She would like to defeat the boss together. And maybe it's time to finish today. There's no point in thinking about everything alone, and she would like to discuss everything together. Together they will succeed here, and on the continent of demons. The team reached unexplored floors, and the guy wants to drink the second potion. There was a strong monster on the 16th floor, but the creature is large and easy to aim at. The effect of the second potion was almost over by the 20th floor. You need to hurry and look for a ladder without engaging in battles, and the potion was just enough. Hiroki and Lucia found themselves on the stairs of the 21st floor of the dungeon. Everything was made of amber, the bottom floor should be close, and the bubble effect was almost over. During the break, the guys got out some dried meat and a sandwich to eat. Hiroki wasn't tired at all, but it was harder for Lucia to shoot all the time. It's better to fight with full strength. The girl is a little sleepy, and she hasn't fought for so long. She can stay there for the night, but they will be there without sleeping bags. It is normal for adventurers to sleep on the stairs. The guy is not used to this. The guys worked so hard and were very tired. With Lucia, they will definitely get to the demon continent, but they need to take on such responsibility. A great day to defeat the boss. The girl is in a great mood in the morning. A black dog appeared in front of the team. He struck the boy, swung his paw, and hit the target, despite Hiroki's shield. The guy had a shield. The girl shouldn't pay attention and just shoot. That's the only way to become partners. It takes time to shoot 5 arrows at once. The guy's dodge is still not enough for battles, and they found a rare demon stone. Then the two went to kill more monsters. What kind of boss is this? An exciting moment. Is the boss really a Cerberus? Usually Cerberus is the final boss of the game. Why did he appear so early? The team stands in front of a huge monster. What is Cerberus doing here? The lower levels of Morphukaki are so complex that no one dared to go there, and it's too much even for Hiroki to dodge. They have a shield. When attacking Cerberus, the girl should press against the wall and move to the back of the room. Her goal will be the exit, and let her not shoot ahead of time. Is the guy really going to let the boss through and let Lucia watch carefully? Cerberus won't be able to get through that narrow passage and the guys will be safe, but isn't that cheating, and their team is already cheating? This team here to learn their abilities, and the girl will definitely become Hiroki's partner. The potion to attract monsters may work on bosses, it may not work, and he will have to be careful. 3 levels should be enough. The guy calls the Cerberus to him. How creepy he is. We need to get ready quickly. Thank God, Hiroki was able to dodge the main monster's attacks. But his strength is simply incredible. Lucia must now go to the passage. The girl is slowly heading there. Keep it up. The monster struck again. He used the shield. Why does Cerberus only appear at such moments? The potion for attracting monsters no longer works. The huge creature roars terribly. The effect is too weak. He activated the maximum power of the shield. The guy protected Lucia from the attack of the Cerberus. Hiroki is at his limit and out of breath. Tried to use the shield again. Come on. Hiroki tries to activate the defense again. The monster has the guy in his sights. The girl should run to the exit right now. Lucia was there. She attacks the monster with arrows. Let him just run to a safe place. Cerberus is moving towards the girl. She is intact. Now it is easier to hit him. The archer starts shooting. Arrow after arrow hitting the monster. -1 head. She continues to shoot. Hit the second head. The guy thought it would be better to just run away, and there is still a chance to defeat Cerberus. The monster used a skill or something like that. Again, normal attacks. And you don't have to worry about Hiroki, he's alive. The guy got it pretty good, although the wound healed. Fortunately, he reacted in time, but it's all over with Cerberus. The guys won, and the girl is happy that Hiroki is alive, everything is fine, and there is no need to cry. The girl didn't follow the plan and might not be able to be his partner, but don't worry, Lucia's strategy was much better. Being Hiroki's partner and the girl risks getting hit by the king, but even so, the guy still wants it. She was the first to ask to be his partner. Let Hiroki take care of her. Lucia will take care of her too. Now the guys go check the treasury. There is a whole bunch of money and a skill book with 2 large magic stones. With this you can buy new equipment and repair the bow in the store. The girl is here for the first time, and this is her first book. Hiroki fights in the vanguard, and he needs to learn as many skills as possible. Their main task is to increase strength and need to prepare for the dangers of the demon continent. Hiroki will take the next book. Lucia needs to tell the book her skill and put her hands on it. The girl received the wind arrow skill, and she is great. The team returns and goes to the equipment store. The seller recognized the strange healer, and the guy thanked him for helping him in the past. The archer will get along well with such an adventurer. Hiroki has some money and needs to enchant some evasion gear. Magic stones and a Cerberus claw would be great. You can make something interesting out of it. The clothes will be enchanted for evasion, and the bow and arrows will be repaired. In 3 days it will be ready. The man will help prepare their equipment for the trip to the continent of demons. I need to sell some materials at the guild while it's still light. And I need to leave a message for Ren and Ruri about my trip to the demon continent. Maybe the guys left something behind. The guy confessed to his partner Lucia that he couldn't read, and the girl would help him find a message for himself. The archer began listing names, and one letter had his last name. The guy said this and asked me to read it. It's something like a family name. Watanabe is leaving for the demon continent in 2 days and wants to meet before leaving. The king in the past asked the names of the summoned boys. He only knows their last names, and there was an agreement to address each other by name. The king's subordinates are too stupid. The guy remembered the message conveyed by the king, and there he was, asked to wait at the stone outside the city gates. It was all a trap. Sakurai and Takanashi with Watanabe are all surnames, since in the letter the surname Ren is a trap built by the king. There are too many ears here, and the guy will tell everything upon his return. Hala is invited on a date, and it probably annoys her. She is really being pestered. The girl is invited to a parade in honor of the hero, but this is beyond her authority. The guy is very sorry. Hala apologized that she had another client waiting, and the stranger promised to see her later. Hiroki came to sell materials. He had high-quality materials. Hala and the adventurer talked about the parade in honor of the hero. The guy was interested in this topic. In order to defeat the demon lord, the hero goes to the demonic continent and holds a parade to inspire him. The hero is going to defeat the demon lord. The boy might be forced to join the parade. The parade starts tomorrow at noon and the boys have to see it. They were paid for the materials, and also about the guys' conversation in the guild. She learned about Hiroki's acquaintance with the hero and that they came from a distant country. Lucia trusts him, and his oddities have always been noticeable. Now everything has fallen into place. This style of fighting is not particularly appreciated in this country. There is no need to tell about the real world of Hiroki. The three of them were summoned by the king from distant lands, and now it is clear why the guy cannot read. The king ordered the demon lord to be killed. The guy's decision about the skills really angered the ruler. The hero Ren agreed to wear the contract bracelet in exchange for Hiroki's freedom, and the summoned truly good person. The guy was given a bracelet. Ren cannot move freely without the king's permission, and the basilisk's curse will soon kill him, which is why Hiroki goes to the demonic continent for the apricot grass. Sakurai doesn't have time to level up. He'll be facing enemies that are so strong and their levels aren't even close, and the king hates the guy, and that's it. So if Lucia doesn't want to be his partner, the guy will understand, but the girl agreed to go. No matter how many times, Lucia will always answer that she wants to be his partner. So who sent that message? It was the king, and the girl was surprised by this information. For such cases, Hiroki and the summoned only told him their last names. The king pretended to be a hero and tried to contact Hiroki, and that's why the guy was surprised then. Since it was a trap, you should ignore the message, but the main character will go there. Even though it was a trap, it could be related to Ren or Ruri, and the next day, near the big rock, the boy did not notice his friends. Suddenly, Hiroki started attacking. Out of nowhere, it was a trap after all. Is this the man, Watanabe? The entire hero parade greatly confuses Ren. It shows how important it is for the king to subdue the demon lord, and the ruler entrusts this task to the summoned. Before leaving, the guy is asked to wait a little longer. For them, Hiroki is caught. The man considers the main character absolutely useless. Watanabe could have found out, and that's why they couldn't finish off the guy. After sending him to the demon continent, the summoned one won't be able to hear about it, and Sakurai worries about his comrade. The guards attacked the guy and didn't know that he had perfect dodge. The battle was in vain. And why it is impossible to hit, the guy remains a mystery. The healer will not be able to attack them. It was just a battle of endurance, and the men expect to hit. Can't Hiroki attack? The guy won't hold back, he's prepared. The healer used wind magic. The opponents didn't expect it. It's amazing. All this time he was a magician. The guards are confused. Hiroki stands smiling. The opponents retreated, and the battle was very cool. The girl used the wind arrow. These idiots took the guy for a magician. The wind arrow is amazing, and while the arrow is flying, it is surrounded by magical wind. Even if it misses, the target will take damage. Now there are more strategies available for the upcoming battle. With the archer's precise aim, the people could have died. They still tried to kill Hiroki, and the guys would not be guilty of their deaths. The king hates the healer so much, and it will have to be dealt with later. As the one called to return to Japan, the king most likely knows the most. First of all, you need to go to the demonic continent for the apricot grass. The team must help the hero, no matter what. The guys are getting ready to go to the parade. They need to hurry. Ruri and Ren are meeting there. Thank God the guys made it to the start of the parade. Music was playing all around, and a huge crowd of people had gathered. Ren doesn't show even a drop of his suffering. The guy doesn't want others to worry about him. Ruri is already used to this and behaves like a noble person. These two are Hiroki's allies, and there is that damned hero who needs the apricot grass. The summoned ones met and said hello. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Takanashi will deal with the crowd of fans without the guy. Watanabe thanks for the information about the apricot grass, and he goes to the demon continent to look for it there. The guy convinced the king of the future subordination of the ruler of the demons. In honor of this, they held a parade. Hiroki's friend is worried about him, but everything is fine. And he now has a companion. They met Lucia. Watanabe leaves Sakurai with the girl and is very happy about the appearance of a new ally for his friend. After all, it is Hiroki who should be worried about Rina. He is behaving recklessly. The healer knows absolutely everything that happened, and even though the guys were called here, they are not obliged to sacrifice themselves. And the fact of Ren's curse has not gone away. Now we need to find that medicinal herb to remove the curse. Hiroki and Lucia were also planning to go to the demon continent to get some apricot grass. Ren heard it was very dangerous there. The guy would think better of himself, and the team will cope with the difficulties. Sakurai still understands the structure of this world better. There is no need to make Takanashi nervous. A man from the king's servants saw the summon together. He was the court magician. He was present on the first day of their arrival here. It was he who called Hiroki this morning, but what is he talking about? The man pretends that he doesn't know anything. Watanabe asked again what he had heard, and the courtier continued to deny it, saying that the guy was interfering with the parade and that he needed to return immediately. The summoned man apologized. It's time for the guy, and let Hiroki not do stupid things. Mr. Watanabe is such a good, kind guy. The people paid attention to the communication with the hero and want details. Hiroki called Lucia. The partners would better go and discuss plans for a trip to the continent of demons. Now the guys are in the capital of the state of Pisnut, and the continent of demons is in the north. There are whirlpools, and it is too dangerous. It is better to bypass this place. The only way to get there is via a narrow land route, and the girl heard that one way goes through the sea of trees, the second through a dungeon at the bottom of the sea. So there are two options. Lucia and Hiroki were met, and they are now officially allies. The girl met the dungeon boss for the first time, but there isn't even a normal map for this cave. They are so strong. Now the goal is to get to the demon continent. Floyd had never been there and heard that the underwater dungeon had a high difficulty level. It was better to go through the sea of trees, or there was a safe ladder in the dungeon. The guy thought it would buy him some time. There will definitely be a boss in the dungeon, and it is unknown whether you will have to face the boss on the way to the continent of demons. It is very dangerous, and few dare to go through this test. Tina doesn't need to be so scared. Danger is part of any journey. Dai is too carefree. The girl also heard about the incredible strength of the enemies in the underwater dungeon, but now there is no time at all to raise the level, and if it is possible to do this, the problem with strength can be solved. There is a huge difference in levels between the guys and the famous heroes. Leveling up in a dangerous dungeon at the bottom of the sea is such a difficult journey. The concept of difficulty does not fit into any framework. Then you can go through this dungeon. The team is leaving the day after tomorrow. The guys are in such a hurry and might not meet Floyd again because of his drinking. Why did Dine say that? The guy asked the hostess to bring some meat, and they would have a blast. First, they would bring ale to the table, and Floyd needed the best meat. Lucia would also drink. Tina asks her partners to be careful. This will definitely happen. After 2 days, all the weapons and equipment are ready. The bow has become larger and will now be harder to carry. The weapon has been improved with a demonic stone. You can try to put some magic power into it. It's just like Ryu Jingu Bang. They used materials from Cerberus for the healer, and therefore the defense increased. It turned out to be good equipment. What does weightlessness mean? His clothes weigh less, and the things in his jacket pockets too. Isn't that convenient? There's also a parting gift just in case, and it doesn't even slip out. The guy now looks like a striker. Hiroki looks like a child in these things. Weightlessness is also applied to the bag. It contains everything necessary for the trip, including boots. All the loot will definitely fit in it. Weightlessness is a common thing, and for Hiroki, it is a novelty. With a large number of battles, the number of skills and abilities increases. There is a skill for cleaning things. It might work the same with treatment, and not all skills can be learned. There are innate skills, and it's just like in games, just a fairy tale. The guy ordered one more thing. The old man almost forgot. He handed it over to the client. Lucia is asked to give her hand. This is a bracelet from the team. Similar things are united. The boys leave. The old man asks to come see him upon his return, and that's how Hiroki left this country and went on a journey. It's hard to walk knee-deep in water, and they have good boots. Everyone said this dungeon is very difficult, and you can't lose your vigilance. This is the first level. The killer mermaid appeared. Lucia will wait here, and Hiroki will distract him. The allies began the battle. The monster began to attack, and pulled out the arrow that had hit him. He struck back. After numerous misses, the monster is defeated they just entered, and Lucia can no longer kill the enemy with one blow. The girl couldn't cope with him for so long, and it's not scary. After all, this place has a high level of difficulty. You'll need more arrows for the new 4 opponents. Hiroki puts up a shield for himself, and Lucia, he has energized himself and is ready to fight. Let's do this. The crying sea slug attacks. The guy easily takes the attacks. It's Lucia's turn. The guys did it. They defeated all the monsters. It wasn't very difficult, and yet the team was delayed. At level 7, it's much more difficult to walk. Dodging is also possible. There might be much more water, or will everything be fine? The snow Fenrir appeared in front of the guys. The guy has unpleasant memories of monsters that resembled dogs, and water would not hurt him at all. It's hard to move in this. Hiroki is still able to dodge. Water splashes around from the battle. Now Lucia attacks the monster. She hit it once. Now she needs to hit it again. If you climb onto the ice, it will be easier to dodge. Hiroki suddenly slipped on the frozen water. The healer fell into the water, and air bubbles came out from him. A monster was still attacking from above. How can he get out? Lucia attacks the beast. She saved the guy. The guys defeated the snow Fenrir. This time, Hiroki couldn't dodge, and next time he will definitely succeed. The team might not be able to pass the 2nd and 3rd floors. Now it would be better to retreat. Moreover, it is unknown how many levels are left, and it will be difficult with stronger enemies. Why not go back and go through the sea of trees? This monster took 3 hits, and there may not be enough strength with the rest. It's hard to admit, the guy is thinking about it too, and the guys will do it. We need to go back to the stairs to dry things. Lucia is so depressed, and she might have been waiting for other words, but now there is no time to waste, so the guy did not finish the sentence. Maybe we could do this dungeon together when they get stronger. Sounds great. You can stop and have dinner. The allies ordered a dish for themselves, just like a kebab, and the hot sauce is so delicious. Maybe Lucia doesn't like it, but no, that's very tasty for her. It's worth taking some food for the road. The girl is probably still thinking about the underwater dungeon. Hiroki woke up last night. It's still a long way off until morning. The mind, oddly enough, is clear, and the guy may just not have had time to relax. After the underwater dungeon, he hopes everything is okay with Lucia. He hasn't found a girl. She's not here. What was she thinking about all day? Was it really about an underwater dungeon? And where did she go? The guy was going to look for an ally. If Hiroki had been more attentive to the archer. Lucia, her image frozen in the air. The night in this world is full of dangers. It's not because of their premature return from the underwater dungeon, and she considers what happened to be her fault. Only if the guy had been more attentive. Where is Lucia? It's very late. The guy is looking for the elf. She was seen. And if it is, of course, her. The girl was shooting a bow, sitting on a tree, trying to hit the monster. The creature in the form of a boar hit the tree. The girl immediately fell down. She screamed. Someone used a shield. Hiroki saved her from a painful fall. He found the archer. The girl was trying to raise her level. She shouldn't disappear so suddenly. The guy is worried. The archer is still thinking about that underwater dungeon. If the girl were stronger, they would have already passed it. The guys went to the dungeon at the very beginning, and Lucia said that she wanted to discuss everything in advance. They were allies after all, and the guy was pleased to hear this. When Hiroki thought everything over on his own, the girl felt lonely, and now she did the same. The healer understands the feelings of his ally, but it is better to figure everything out together. It was still a long time before dawn, and she didn't feel like sleeping at all, so the girl was offered to swing. Until the morning, Hiroki was in his pajamas, and his partner found this very funny. Weakening and expanding the territory, maximum duration, and with such magic it will be impossible to get wet. How many skills the girl has and the monsters are still approaching. Ren calls out to Ruri. Snow Fenrir has appeared. There he is. The guy goes on the attack. One monster was defeated. Several more appeared. The wolf-like creatures all attacked with a wild roar. The girl used wind magic. The Snow Fenrir was defeated. Ren also uses his power, protects the monster's equipment from him, and a few more blows follow. All the monsters were defeated. They moved using ice. It was a bit confusing. The girl's magic strikes like a guy's wound, and they have a lot of potions, but he is completely fine and can heal such a wound himself. But if the hero is in pain, it is worth saying right away that he always endures until the very end. Ren will never dodge because Ruri is behind him and there is no need to worry about him. The regeneration skill works perfectly. But this does not mean that there is no pain and he should take more care of himself. At such moments, the girl thinks about the guy, about the friend who left them. They could stop at level 12. They had gone a long way and Ren was tired. In his world, the guy had never trained so much. Does the girl play sports? She took up archery and horse riding, so she quickly saddled a horse and was called simply to occupy herself. He also had a lot of free time and he worked part-time, did household chores, but this is no longer free time. Ren could always be with his family, it was fun, they must be very close, and the guy must be lonely. It's not that Rory didn't want to meet her family again, but this world is much better, and she has Ren and Hiroki, the girl has a special family, and she had to put their interests above her own. Everyone was either afraid of this family or wanted to take advantage of their influence. The girl had a hard time, and Ren was the only understanding person. Now people see the summoned one only as a hero. The guy is very happy. Because he knows about his feelings for them, people seem to understand everything without knowing about his past family. It doesn't have to be another world. The guys will return to Japan and remain friends. The girl agrees. Even in Japan, it would be fun with Hiroki and Rory. When they are together, they seem to be able to move mountains. They had to find a way back and say goodbye to the king who was just using them. Ren suddenly choked. Rory will go wash up, come back to fix the guy's armor. She should beware of monsters, and the girl still has an active search. Ren must be in a lot of pain because of the curse. He doesn't show his weaknesses when the girl is around. In such a situation, it is normal to worry. Ren and Rory are friends after all. The guy winced in pain after the girl left. The Sea of Trees connects the continent of Rockway and the continent of demons, the girl finished, and the fog is very thick around. But there are fewer monsters here, and they can be killed on the go. Because of the fog, it is difficult to find the places marked on the map, and it is no longer needed. The guys are going in the right direction. This mark means something. The guy doesn't even see the ground. He used a shield, reducing the force of the blow. He was scared as hell. Magic protected him from pain. He was flying down so fast. Hiroki fell from such a great height. The girl became worried about what happened. He called out to her. Thank the gods, Hiroki is okay, and it's unlikely that he'll be able to climb back up. The girl won't be able to jump down either. She'll need the guy's shield to get down. The stronger the shield, the smaller its size, and vice versa. Creating a shield around her during a fall is too risky, and Lucy should not experience this horror. The guys will meet later. There are a few monsters, and they still exist. The girl can handle it alone, and she jumps from tree to tree. If you go along the gorge to the huge boulder, you can meet there. The team should be more careful on the way. Only a few seconds passed, and Hiroki was already being attacked by monsters. How unlucky he was. New creatures appeared. The mushrooms still look cute, I guess, and they're easy to dodge, but aren't there more monsters and the fog isn't as thick? That's because we're in the gorge and we need to hurry to meet Lucia. The girl seemed to be in her native forest, only there was no one around. She wished she could meet Hiroki sooner. The mushroom squad is defeated. It's some other team. The girl orders her allies. A red bear appeared. A guy named Pino was captured. Is this the end? Magic was used against the huge monster. Looks like a saber-toothed bear. The shield should help against the attack. Hiroki hit with a spell from such a distance and fought at this time. You need to think about defeating the monster first. The unknown team listened to him. Someone attacks with involuntary arrows, shoots without a bow, and it's amazing. The red bear is defeated. There are just a ton of monsters here, and a stranger will shoot at them, an archer without a bow. It's really impressive. Hiroki is simply amazing, and we are grateful to him. The unknown team relaxed, although it is their job to protect the girl. The guy hit with a strong healing spell from such a distance. While avoiding monster attacks, 100 points in healing is cool. As a gamer, the guy focused on the dodge build and spent too much time on it. But in this world, Hiroki is not a gamer, he is a healer. And who is he? Anyway, Pino should first introduce himself, and such a tone was impolite. The girl is an elf Pino, and she is an alchemist. Another girl's name is Liliana, and she is a hunter from the beast race. Another one is Hassan, and he is a dwarf with a hammer. He is on the same team with the girls, and also Pino's bodyguard. Hiroki also introduced himself and told about his powers. He is very grateful to the unknown team. It is the first time they see a healer with evasion. He is looking for his ally, and they are forced to split up. Now Hiroki is going to her. It is very dangerous for the archer to remain alone, and he needs to meet her as soon as possible. The girl lived in the forest, like Pino, and can move perfectly well through the trees, so it's not that dangerous. They are supposed to meet near a huge stone, and it is quite far from here. The strangers offer to go together, in gratitude for saving them. It would be nice. And the guy is not confident in his strength. Because of the large number of monsters, Hiroki can dodge 10 mushroom squads, and is worried. Pino wants to take these mushrooms for dinner. There are so many mushrooms here, and they won't disappear. After defeating them, they are very tasty mushrooms. but they look like a very ordinary mushroom, and Pino likes this kind of food. Since the guy can dodge a bunch of mushroom squads so well, can't he enjoy fresh mushrooms at any time? Hiroki gives up on the idea. It's just a brilliant idea, and she has a strange idea about them. The girl continues to collect mushrooms. The team members can be called by their names without formalities. Hiroki is pleased to meet Pino and Liliana with Hassan. Then they head to the stone. The girl should not go anywhere alone. Pino forgot about what just happened. She can't help herself when there are medicinal herbs growing nearby. Thanks to Hiroki, the girl now has a shield, and the weak girl is now invulnerable. Their ally likes to watch them. You can't waste the guy's shield in vain. The team is already close to that boulder, and the fog has cleared. A large tree can even be seen ahead, Hiroki was told to look up. There, above the adventurers, was a giant tree. A great tree in another world. This tree stretched its branches over great distances. Hiroki sees the great tree for the first time, and it contains an unimaginably huge amount of magic. There are only a few of them in the whole world. You need to be careful. The female bear they recently killed is still here. Red bears usually travel in pairs, and she must be nearby somewhere. The destroyed trees are the result of the battle. Hiroki is worried about Lucia. If only everything would be okay with those people. There are arrows at such a height, and probably something really serious happened to the archer. These could be new species. With the ability to create hallucinations and have high speed of movement, Lucy may have encountered a red bear, and she needs to quickly follow the tracks. This red bear is very fierce, and the forest was greatly damaged because of her. Hiroki's ally is really fighting with the enraged bear. The girl will definitely get a reward. There was a girl in the distance. It was Lucia, and she turned around at the sound of Hiroki's voice. She was attacked by a monster. She's about to fall, and it will be difficult to catch her. Hiroki will be able to save his partner. The team is at a loss. You can rely on the guy. He uses the boost just to hit the target. The bear-shaped monster growls and continues to attack. Lucia shoots at it. Hiroki used the shield. The red bear is defeated. It was amazing. Lucia is so brave. Thank God the girl is okay, and there was a precise strike on the fly. These guys helped Hiroki deal with the monsters that were chasing him. Lucia thanked her comrade for saving her. Liliana was surprised by the professional fight with the red bear. The girl foresaw a shield for her. Lucia trusts him, and the guy earned her trust. Pino found in the bag what she was looking for, and this is a magic potion for Hiroki. The guy has enough magical power, and it is apparently endless. Hiroki created an improved shield from a long distance, and the main character himself knows no limits. There is a gift for Lucia. A strange leaf glows. The great tree rewarded for that battle. The great tree is kind to the elves, and that is what she meant. Absolutely anything can happen in this world. This leaf is very valuable and needs to be protected. You can use it as a material to create an arrow, and this weapon will kill with one hit. You can create only one, and you need to use it wisely. The elf hit the jackpot. The guy also wants this, and even if you pick a leaf, it still won't light up, and it's useless. The girl thanked the great tree. It will be preserved as a talisman of good luck, and there are somewhere great trees that are kind to people, and there are several of them in this world. This reminds of the existence of an elf, and he is called the elf of the great trees. These trees love him more than other elves, and the origin of his nickname is unknown. It is not known exactly how true this is, and with the onset of darkness, the team sets up camp. They put together a strong, neat tent, and it was too small for two people. But if they and Lucia slept in one, nothing terrible should happen. The tent is growing, and the elf's bow too. This happens with the help of the stones found, and the guys fought a lot for this. I wish they could also collect these stones, and these stones are suitable for kitchen utensils. Food is important. It helps you think better. The guy can't help but agree. For dinner, there are killed squads of mushrooms and the meat of a ferocious boar. The guys eat the meat of defeated monsters. Pino cannot be stopped in this regard. Don't monsters disappear after being defeated? And with the use of medicine, no. Pino is an alchemist. And you can put the food on a leaf of the great tree, season with a piece of butter on top, and everything is ready. Hiroki and Lucia can also have some, and this is gratitude for the mushrooms. The girl looked closely at the dish, then tried it. It's so delicious, and Hiroki wanted to try it too. The most delicious food makes you a winner, and it's impossible to get full. Pino cooks so deliciously. Now it's time to split up. The shield helped a lot with Pino's character, and there is an opportunity to calmly collect materials in any place. The girl runs away even more from this fact. There is still a long way to the apricot continent, and we need to be on guard, the team. Thanks for this. At the end, Hiroki created a shield, and it was fun together. They will see each other again, they wish each other good luck, and a safe journey. There is very little time left until the apricot continent. A guy and a girl were walking hand in hand through a colorful forest, and the guy said how nice it was that they met them, and he would gladly send them a friend request. The girl didn't understand. Suddenly the girl saw a store, but there was no seller, and the store was small. It stood on the carpet. There was a little fairy. The girl and the boy were surprised. She had a lot of different goods, and there were different crystals around. The guy asked, "A fairy?" The fairy answered that everything was correct, and this was a fairy shop. The guy and the girl saw the fairy for the first time and looked at her attentively while the fairy was twisting and turning something. It was an honor for the fairy, and she was glad to meet them. Her name was a trading fairy. The girl asked why the shop was in such a strange place. The fairy replied that only people with the gift of the great tree can get into this forest. She was talking about some leaf. The guy didn't have this leaf. The fairy said that you can visit the store with the one who accepted the gift. The girl and the guy were happy and began to look at the goods. Something similar to a necklace was hanging on the wall, but it was round. It gave very good improvements and cost about $1 million. The guy and the girl were very surprised at how expensive it was. The girl said that she couldn't buy it, and the guy also became sad. After all, the fairy had one of the lowest prices in her store. She told them to come back when they became great travelers and recommended them a magic bag. The girl was surprised, but the fairy explained that this was the ability of fairies. She could enchant their bag, and then the great peach tree. It would become a bag that could fit a lot of things. The guy really wanted it. The guy's eyes were shining, and he was smiling from ear to ear. He really wanted her, and repeated twice how much he wanted her. Pino's team uses magic to shrink objects, but if the guy has a bag like that, he'll have to work with it, and his load will become lighter, allowing him to dodge attacks faster. The backpack had an upgrade for lightness, but it was still too heavy for the guy. The fairy told him that it was expected. After all, he has a sharp look, and in honor of their meeting, she wanted to sell him a bag for only $1 million. The guy fell to his knees from such a large sum, and the girl said that it was too much for them. The guy really wanted to get the boost right now, because he is a healer and must dodge, but he has no money. Suddenly he thought, what if he exchanged the goods for something from Japan? He started showing things to the fairy. There was a mirror, a handkerchief, and a pen with a notebook. The fairy was delighted with these things. For her, these were cute things, and she especially liked the handkerchief. This handkerchief was given to the guy by Ruri. The scarf was obviously made of complex technologies, and even in Japan, this scarf is one of the highest quality, the girl said, leaning towards the fairy, since the fairy was small, but she could fly. The fairy was delighted with the scarf and agreed to upgrade their bag for it. The guy immediately agreed, and the girl was surprised. The guy shouted to the girl with joy that thanks to this bag, they would be able to level up much faster, and the girl was not against it. But the guy wanted to keep the scarf because it was a Ruri scarf. Ren's curse at all costs. He thought that she would not be angry if he used the gift to make his adventures easier. The fairy thanked them with great joy, and thanks to this scarf, her mood improved so much because it was so rare. She decided to make an exception and could improve all their bags, but the guy did not have a bag. But as it turned out, it was possible to improve those 2 bags that were on their feet. You need to take everything out of them, and she began to dump everything out of the bags, and for the guy, it seemed a rude way. The fairy decided to start with the guy's bag. His name was Hiroki, and the girl's name was Lucia. Lucia asked what happened. Hiroki answered that nothing, and the fairy began to cast a spell, which surprised both of them, and the fairy said, "Expansion." She enchanted the bags and told them to try to put almost anything inside. The fairy held the bag open, and Hiroki put something like wind into the bag with magic. The fairy was delighted that everything worked. Hiroki didn't know the fairy had such a skill. The fairy made another expansion. Lucia thanked her fairy. The deal was fine. She asked, "Is there anything else?" Hiroki first answered that that was all, but then he thought, maybe. He asked the fairy if she had an antidote for spells made from the apricot grass. The fairy answered yes, but unfortunately they were all gone, and Hiroki asked what about the apricot grass itself. The fairy answered that if she had it, she would have brewed a potion for them a long time ago, and it was not sold fresh. Unfortunately, Hiroki had nothing else of value, and he would have to look for it himself. The fairy said that they could pay not only with things and thought about what she could ask of them. Hiroki was shocked that he even got goosebumps. But to save Ken, his body was telling him to run. He told the fairy that they would do everything in their power, and the fairy replied that she was looking forward to it. The fairy had several shops, and she would ask them for a favor. When she had potions, they all said goodbye. Hiroki said that they were counting on her. The fairy replied, "See you." Lucia saw a fairy for the first time, and Hiroki thought that she was bigger than he thought. They walked through the sea of trees. Several days passed, and they finally reached the continent of Apricot. They stood in front of mountains and small forests, in the middle of which was a road. They came to the city to ask someone. They were in the continent of Apricot, and the city was north of the Sea of Trees. It was not like in human cities at all. There was a mystical atmosphere, as Lucia said. Lucia saw a lamp that could be lit by magic and was very surprised. They walked through the market where there were a lot of magical things. She looked at the passers-by and said that they looked just like people. "This country is much calmer than he thought," Hiroki said with a smile. In his fantasy, there were demons with horns in their hands who had a skull. He wondered if it was worth killing the demon king, and maybe it would even be possible to negotiate with him than with the human king, although he still does not know what kind of demon king he is. Hiroki suggested checking into a hotel. Lucia replied, "Let's go." They came to the Pfluger Hotel, and the girl at the counter explained to them that the money in Pisnata was Zlata, and in Apricot, Liko. Hiroki was surprised by the different currencies, and Lucia remembered something, because people had said something about it. But the girl said that they could exchange the currency at the Adventurers Guild. They had business there anyway, so Hiroki said to Lucia, "Let's go." They arrived at the guild and came to a girl who could exchange Lata for Liko. Hiroki asked if it was possible to ask about the apricot grass. The girl answered, "Of course." She explained that if they exchanged 50,000 Lata, they would receive 40,000 Liko. Hiroki thought that he was being deceived somewhere, but he had no choice and agreed. The girl added that everything depended on the prices of goods in Apricot. The girl said that the apricot grass is rare and even their guild does not have any stock. Hiroki told her that he wants to brew a potion against the curse and asked if she knew where to find it. The girl replied that they did not know the exact location, but they knew places where it might grow. This grass grew in places with a high level of magic, but there is no guarantee that it will be there. The girl opened the map in front of her. Looking at the map, she said that places with a high level of magic are rivers, seas, lakes, and forests. It was not noticed that it grows underwater, but the girl suggested that they look in the mountains and forests. There is also a lot of magic around the mountains, but with strong monsters, and in the forests there is less magic, but growths are noted there. And then the girl asked, "Are you Mr. Hiroki?" He answered that yes, it was him, and the girl remembered that someone else had asked about the grass, and that was why she thought so. Hiroki was surprised and said, "From Ken." The girl answered yes and said that they had given Hiroki and Lucia a message that they were heading to the mountains. Hiroki suggested splitting into 2 groups and going to the forest. Lucia was all for it, but the girl said also. The girl said about the potion that in order to brew the potion from this herb, they would have to find a first-class chemist. Hiroki and Lucia did not take this into account and were very surprised. The girl said that alchemists are not registered as travelers, so the 2 girls said that they could help and asked if Hiroki and Lucia knew any alchemists. "Pino," Lucia remembered, and Hiroki was screaming if they could send friend requests. Hiroki didn't know if Pino was a top-notch alchemist, but she might know someone who could help them. Lucia agreed, but they didn't ask where they were going. The girl suggested that Hiroki and Lucia could look for alchemists in the guild. Hiroki asked to find them alchemists, and if they could get the apricot grass, then everything would end well. Hiroki was serious and said that they needed to find it as quickly as possible. He found on the map where this grass grows with the greatest probability, and the deeper they go, the higher the level of magic will be, and thus the monsters will become stronger. They firmly decided that they were going there. They stopped somewhere on the cart and entered the building where there were demons, beastmen, and elves. Hiroki was delighted that there were so many different races. Lucia was also delighted and replied that this was an unusual sight for a Pisnata. Suddenly, Horbika is calling Lucia. He asked what the animal was called. It was a pikaroo, something similar between a llama and a horse. It was tied to a carriage. They were used like horses, and they were quite fast. You could ride them by reserving a place for yourself. They were shouted at to move away because they are gentle. Be careful when handling them. Despite their cute appearance, they are quite aggressive, and a pikaroo will not let anyone close except its owner. After that, Hiroki and Lucia rented a carriage to get to the apricot forest. Hiroki would have to endure such a shaking in the carriage all day. Lucia said that it was always like that. Hiroki still preferred the technology of his world, and he missed the comfort. Lucia suggested him to get the pillow they had recently bought, and Hiroki said it was a good idea. Lucia also decided to get her pillow. They felt much more comfortable and better. Hiroki hoped that they would arrive soon. And so Lucia wakes up Hiroki. Despite all the inconveniences, Hiroki slept very soundly. He wondered if they had arrived and how quickly. Hiroki was numb because he slept in one position. They got out of the carriage where a man in a suit met them, and Hiroki apologized for taking so long. The man assumed that they were tired and said that he would come here at the same time every day. Hiroki thanked him. Lucia suggested making a stop. Hiroki was not against it, and they collected branches, thanks to the magic bag. They could carry different ingredients and cutlery. Hiroki ate soup and Lucia meat. They were ready to go on a long journey. The next morning, they were thinking where to go. Lucia had already collected information about the city. The springs and caves had a high level of magic. Also, in 2 days' walk to the north, there should be a spring. You could also come to a cave. They decided to go north. Hiroki bought a dose of a potion to attract monsters. This potion had a terrible taste, and Lucia thanked him for drinking it every day. Suddenly, someone behind missed. It was a slime demon who wanted to attack Hiroki. It was black and small. He was also slow, but his attack power was higher than that of a normal slime. But for Hiroki, it was a normal slime. Hiroki suggested that Lucia fight monsters, thereby leveling up. The slime was trying to attack him all this time, but Hiroki did not pay any attention to him, and Lucia said that the epic grass is low trees, and that is why you need to watch your step. Lucia suggested that they could find this grass if they go a little deeper. They came across translucent flowers. Also a huge mushroom. The slime was still chasing Hiroki and missing. Lucia said that she heard that they only grow in places with a high level of magical power. Hiroki answered that it means they are on the right track, smiling at Lucia. On their way, they met a small orc demon and a slime demon. Hiroki laughed at them and said, if their name has a demon, then they think they look scary? But still, the orc could use magic, and Lucia said that they are partially demons. Hiroko thought that the magic of monsters is a great way to test his abilities. For example, Tina could direct her magic to a specific point, and Hiroko already had an unsuccessful experience with magic. But by that time, he had leveled up and decided to act while his opponent was not weakened. The demon orc slowly attacked Hiroko. Lucia was worried, but Hiroko decided to put up a shield just in case and prepare an instant healing spell. Lucia shouted at him to dodge. He dodged, and the magic missed, and Lucia nervously told him that he could have dodged earlier, and he almost gave her a heart attack. But Hiroki just wanted to see if he could automatically dodge the magic. Lucia was surprised that he dodged automatically, and it was thanks to his perfect dodge. He also said that when he was hit by the flying slime, he had level 1 and 51 dodge points. But now, thanks to the level, he has 87 points. Magic requires much more dodge points than physical strength. The monsters were defeated. Lucia said that she had never met anyone who pumped up evasion, but Hiroki still had a long way to go to pump up evasion. 2 days later, they reached the springs. It was very beautiful there, and there were huge mushrooms. They quickly went for the epic grass. They couldn't find anything and decided that they would have to spend the night there, and Hiroki was sure that the next day they would reach the cave and hoped that they would find it there. It was the 4th day that they spent the night in the forest, but they still didn't find the cave. Hiroki thought they were lost, and it would only take 3 days to get to the cave. He was also wondering if they should go back to the spring. Lucia told him not to worry and said they were going in the right direction. The magical power in this forest was off the charts, so Hiroki was also sure they were on the right path. Suddenly, Lucia calls Hiroki and tells him to look from under the bushes. As it turns out, goblin demons appeared on their way. There were at least 30 of them, and among them were magicians. Hiroki thought that it would not be easy, but Lucia was with him. He did not want something like that to happen again. He suggested Lucia to step aside, and she agreed. And then there was a crunch. The goblins noticed them trying to get away, unnoticed. Hiroki stepped on a branch and started screaming, "Don't be cliché." One of the goblins gave the command, "Arrows! Forward!" Lucia shouted and shot back with her bow, but the goblins tried to attack Hiroki because of the potion he drank. But as it turned out, The goblins are very slow. Hiroki told Lucia to attack them while he would run around her. Hiroki used healing and realized that while the goblins were attacking, he could calmly heal the damage. Suddenly Hiroki was very surprised. There was a nest of demon goblins, and goblins kept coming out of there. The whole crowd ran after him, and Hiroki thought, "Am I surrounded?" Goblins in front and behind Hiroki. Hiroki stood in the middle of the forest while goblins were running towards him, and everything would have been fine if they were slimes. But they were the goblins they were talking about. One of the goblins with sharp teeth shouted, "Gugya-gya." That's how he called his friends from the nest. Hiroki shouted to Lucia that this was a goblin nest. No one realized how many of them were there. Also, no one knew if they could defeat everyone at once, and Lucia began to fight back with her shots, and suddenly, Hiroki thought, they are here to defeat the goblins. He was yelling at Lucia to run, and they didn't have time for goblins. Lucia told Hiroki to run ahead, and she noticed something on their way. It was a river! And goblins can't swim, no way, said Hiroki. He dove into the river from the cliff. The goblins almost caught up with him. Lucia ducked after him while the goblins were shouting something, when suddenly Hiroki remembered that he was wearing heavy armor and was about to drown. Suddenly Lucia made a shield, pressing herself against him, and they swam. They swam to some shore and Hiroki was coughing. He was lying and calling for Lucia, who was sitting above him. He said, raising one hand, "Treatment." Their shield broke halfway. He thanked Lucia and said what a good swimmer she was. Thanks to Lucia, they were able to continue their journey once they were inside the cave. The river led straight to the cave, and Hiroki was happy, raising both hands up, that they finally reached the cave. Lucia assumed that there were monsters nearby and suggested that they rest and dry their things before leaving. Hiroki agreed, wringing out the things like Lucia. After a short rest, flying demons appeared. They looked like bats but were as round as slimes. Lucia tried to hit them with arrows but missed when suddenly the demon golem appeared. Hiroki's leg because Hiroki dodged. Hiroki thought that even so, everything was going smoothly and suggested that Lucia pump up while they were looking for the apricot grass. Lucia agreed and hit the golem with arrows, but they still got carried away deep, and they were walking for a long time. Lucia started hitting the flying demons too. Suddenly they came across a fork, and Lucia noticed that something was heard from the right side. Hiroki assumed that it could be travelers or the boss of the cave. They had to be on guard. Looking, they saw a waterfall that was making so much noise. It was wonderful and beautiful there, and Lucia noticed some apricot grass on the stone. They were very happy, but suddenly their faces changed. As it turned out, it wasn't a stone. It was a demon turtle, and the grass grew right on it. The turtle was huge and looked like a big rock. Suddenly, that shop fairy appears from there. She was flying around the turtle's tail with a small knife. Hiroki and Lucia were surprised. They wondered why he was here. After all, they asked him for the apricot grass. Hiroki shouted, "Be careful!" And he put a shield and healing on the fairy. The fairy was very surprised and recognized. Hiroki shouted for her to be careful. And look ahead! The turtle's tail hit the shield with the fairy. The fairy told them that it was unexpected and thanked them for the shield. They asked if he was okay, and it seemed he overdid it. The fairy was embarrassed that they had been watching him for a long time. The fairy said that they could only collect the grass if they defeated the turtle. Because it was very fierce, Hiroki found it impressive and asked if the fairy could leave it to him. The fairy asked if he had a plan and could defeat it with the arrow of the great tree. Hiroki told Lucia that it wasn't worth it, but they had to deal with it, and their goal wasn't to defeat him. Lucia was surprised. The fairy suggested that Lucia watch what Hiroki would do. He climbed onto the turtle, and the fairy screamed, "Be careful!" The turtle almost hit Hiroki with its tail, but he managed to dodge. The fairy and Lucia were surprised. The battle with the tail and Hiroki continued. With his light, automatic dodge, he could easily climb higher. The fairy asked Lucia if he was really a healer. Lucia replied that he was a healer with dodge. The fairy was very surprised. Suddenly, the turtle uses his tornado technique. Hiroki flew high into the air. He looked down and realized that this was the perfect position. Below was the very bush he needed. The fairy was shocked and said that he was just like a leaf in the wind. And what kind of abilities are these? Hiroki landed. He picked a couple of branches and was very happy. They were already one step closer to lifting the curse. The fairy and Lucia began to praise him when suddenly the turtle swung his tail and the fairy shouted, "Hiroki!" He dodged and put up a defense. He said that he had begun to get used to such falls from a height, and suddenly the demonic turtle calmed down. She calmed down because they no longer bothered her. They only had to find an alchemist. Hiroki reminded the fairy that she said that she sold potions from the apricot grass and asked if she knew a good alchemist. She knew and said that it was impossible to just see him. Hiroki suggested that it looked like they would have to look for an alchemist too, and the fairy said that she would contact Hiroki and Lucia as soon as she met the alchemist. Hiroki thanked her and said that he could say, "Let's go home," but he had no idea where they were and asked if the fairy could lead them to the exit of the forest. But she had already managed to disappear, which surprised Hiroki and Lucia. They would have to find a way out themselves. Lucia began to support Hiroki and say that they would cope. Meanwhile, the fairy was flying somewhere in the cave not far from them and saying that she was not so weak. But Hiroki's dodges really impressed her, and it was not for nothing that she decided to take a closer look at him. As the fairy said, he is still a friend of the hero and was able to independently make his way to the continent of Apricot. And finally, Hiroki and Lucia got out, but they did not know where to go next, because the exit to the forest should be in the south from where they were. Lucia pointed to the side and told Hiroki that they needed to go there, and Hiroki was surprised that Lucia knew where to go, even without a compass. True, Lucia could only determine the direction. Meanwhile, in the Lakoko Mountains, dill foxes appeared. The guy fought them by creating a shield and waving his sword. He used the earth skill and also attacked the foxes with a sword. And finally the foxes were defeated. This guy and the girl with long hair standing with him had been looking for the apricot grass for several days, and the girl did not think that it was somewhere here, the guy agreed. The girl suggested going back to the guild and looking for the herb in another place. The guy agreed and said that they would do so. The guy told the girl that he had sent Hiroki a message that they would go looking in the mountains, and asked the girl what she thought. Did Hiroki receive the message? The girl was sure that he had received it. The guild also said that you can search in the mountains, and they decided to check it later. The girl assumed with a smile on her face that Hiroki was already there. A few hours later, in an inn in the village of Falora at the foot of the mountains, a guy was sitting in a room with his shield on his knees, when suddenly he heard someone talking about how good it was that they were able to get to the village, and if they had gone a little further, they would have had to spend the night right in the mountains. They also said that it was not so easy to follow the hero. The guy became wary and thought how thin the walls were and he should just ignore them. At the table sat a girl taking off her helmet, and next to her stood a man taking off his armor, saying that monsters in places where there is a lot of magic are very dangerous and the rest have not returned. Yet the girl replied that they returned first, only thanks to his power. They were soldiers from the kingdom of Pays Not. The guy pressed himself against the wall and listened. They said what a natural hero he was, who was trusted by the aristocracy and the princess, just as he followed the orders of the king. But it was just a trick to escape straight to the continent of demons, said the man. The girl was surprised and asked again if he really thought so. After all, the hero looked so sincere in his intentions. The man leaned over and said that the hero did it specifically to deceive them. Otherwise, why would he have come all the way here? The man was sure. He also noted that those who betrayed the king must definitely be punished. Suddenly, the same girl abruptly enters the room and tells Ren that they need to discuss their plan. Ren puts his finger to his mouth, indicating that she should be quiet. The girl does not understand anything. Ren explained to her that in the next room there were soldiers from the kingdom of Pinesot, and it seemed they doubted them. Ren suggested leaving the village to avoid problems. The girl did not mind. Ren sat by the fire in the forest, next to the tent, and thought, if they were being watched by soldiers, it means that the people from the demon continent already know that Ren is a hero. Most likely, his armor gave him away, and the armor had the kingdom's coat of arms on it. Ren twisted himself and said that he was still going to take it all out, because Ruri didn't know yet. Suddenly, knights began to attack him, saying that even though he was a hero called by the king, he resisted the order. Ren managed to hide behind a shield. The knight shouted that Ren was forbidden to run away and attacked him with a sword. Suddenly Ren, hiding behind a shield, asked, "How do you like that?" Ren tried to attack, but the knight shouted that whoever disobeyed the king must be gotten rid of. But Ren said that he couldn't die here, and he hit the knight with his shield with all his might. He pressed the knight to the tree with the shield, and the knight, with shock on his face, said that his strength, they underestimated his strength. Suddenly, Ren can't breathe and realized that he could die like that. He tried to hurt them, but couldn't control his power because of the curse. While Ren was thinking, the knight pierced him with his sword right in the stomach. The knight smirked and told Ren that it turns out he's not such a bad person, even though he's a traitor. Suddenly, someone used an earth spell. The knight was hit from below the jaw, and Ruri asked if Ren was okay, taking cover in the tent. Ruri, with difficulty for saving him and for falling, Ruri realized that he was injured and gave him a potion. Ren thanked her again and said that he was already better. Ren began to drink the potion. Ren asked him to catch his breath, and Ruri asked if it was because of the curse. Ren answered yes and said that when the earthmark spreads, the pain intensifies. And then everything calmed down, and Ruri asked him not to force himself. Ren answered that he was fine. Ruri, Hiroki, and he could definitely go home, Ren said, and they sat near the knight. It seemed those soldiers were in the next room and they couldn't hide from them. Ruri was feeling, and if she wanted to sleep? Ruri said that everything was fine. Then Ren suggested that they move on and only then rest. Ruri said that he should worry about himself and not about her. Ren apologized for making her worry, but Ruri thought that he shouldn't apologize for that. If the soldiers found them, then the steel ones were close too. There were many warriors in robes, and Ruri suggested buying robes with hoods, to which Ren agreed and said that he needed to cover his armor so that he would not be recognized. 3 days later, Hiroki and Lucia finally reached the road on a sunny day. They were very happy, and if they went west, they would reach the city. And they would go to take some kind of cart. This was the first time Hiroki got lost for just a couple of days. And it was all thanks to Lucia. Lucia said that he could always rely on her if it came to the forest. Hiroki offered to tell Ren how they found the apricot grass. Lucia was sure he would be happy. Ruri and Ren had already taken black hooded robes for themselves. Hiroki and Lucia were in a city north of the Sea of Trees. Hiroki noticed that the soldiers here were from the Paysnot Kingdom, and even though they talked about how they hated demons, they walked around here so openly. Lucia stood behind Hiroki as if covering herself and said that he was right. The soldiers were talking to each other, and one asked the other if he had found any information about the hero's whereabouts. The other soldier said no and that he had disappeared recently. They were looking for Ren and Hiroki. They didn't like them. Hiroki suggested that Lucia go to the guild. They arrived at the guild where a cute little girl met them at the counter and congratulated them on their return. They also asked how their search for the apricot grass was going. Hiroki put the grass on the counter and said that it was all thanks to her. The girl was shocked. They had to find a good chemist, because unfortunately no one responded to this vacancy. Hiroki would like to deal with this as quickly as possible, but the girl found the location of one talented alchemist. They were delighted and thanked her, wondering if the alchemist could make a dispelling potion. But Hiroki wondered if this place was too far from where they were now. It wasn't that far, but there was one problem. This place was at the foot of the mountain behind the sacred Demon Peak dungeon. It was difficult to get there without first-class travelers. Hiroki looked at the map and thought that everything could end well if the monsters there were simply stronger. He invested all the points in the enhancement and it worked. But the thing was that Hiroki rushed things. Lucine was wondering how many levels it takes to become an advanced traveler. Hiroki thought it would be terrible if the problem was their number, and what should they do then, and is it worth trying? The girl said that if they were worried, what about recruiting people for their team? Hiroki replied that the last time he tried, he was rejected. The girl asked if she should post a recruitment notice for the Sacred Demon Peak Dungeon group in addition to the announcement of a high-level alchemist. Hiroki agreed and that it would be great. Then the girl said to fill in their information and it was needed in order to recruit people. Hiroki answered okay and he and Lucia began to fill it out. The girl looked at the filled sheet and was surprised that the archer was level 21 and level 21 and 19. She shouted that they definitely shouldn't go to the Sacred Demon Peak Dungeon with such levels. She also realized that they shouldn't go to the Apricot Forest either. Then she was surprised by the healer with evasions, and said that this is usually not a common case and thought that they would have to wait before responses appeared. Hiroki answered well, and in principle, he thought so. Hiroki and Lucia thanked the girl and went. The girl told them to be patient until the response to the application came, and Hiroki suggested Lucia to return to the hotel and come up with a plan, to which Lucia agreed. Someone called Hiroki, he answered, and when he turned around he said, "Oh, It was Ruri and Ren in black hooded cloaks. Lucia and Hiroki were surprised. Ruri put her finger to her lips, showing that she needed to be quieter, and said that she shouldn't say that here. Hiroki understood what they were talking about, and why they were wearing cloaks. They were hiding from the soldiers. They went to talk in the hotel. Corundium Hotel, and Lucia and Hiroki admired such a luxurious hotel. Probably this hotel is for nobility and first-class adventurers. Ren said that the price here is certainly biting, but here it is safe. Ren also said that ordinary soldiers can't afford to live in this place, and there are thick walls. That's why they can talk calmly and not be afraid of being heard. Even the heroes had a lot of problems. They went to the room and sitting on the sofas, and Hiroki asked, "Are all these soldiers looking for Ren?" And most likely it is. Ren said that they did not receive orders to act together with the royal soldiers, and that's why he thinks that they are here to monitor their movements. Ruri recognized Lucia because Ren had told her a lot about her. She was glad to meet him and introduced herself in full. Her name was Takanashi Ruri, and she is a magician. Ren told Lucia that she had heard of him too, and his name was Watanabe Ren. Lucia Plum also introduced herself and noted that she was an archer. Everyone was pleased to meet each other, and Ruri thanked Lucia for teaming up with Hiroki. Lucia said that traveling had become even more fun since she met Hiroki. Even though she knew that Mr. Ren was in danger, she was still excited about the adventure and that she shouldn't have. Hiroki told her not to worry and that he was glad that Lucia was enjoying herself. Hiroki thought that Ren was broken as always, but didn't show it. Hiroki had two news for Ren, good and bad. The good news was that they got the grass. Ren and Ruri were surprised by the apricot grass. But anyway, they needed a talented alchemist who could make a dispelling potion. The bad news was that Hiroki had the location of a good alchemist, but they had to go through a high-level dungeon. Then Ren said, "Wouldn't they all like to go together?" Hiroki happily said that was what he was going to suggest. He turned to Lucia and asked if she would agree. Lucia was confused and excited that she could team up with the hero, and was it true that she could go with him? Hiroki smiled and said that it would be nice if she went with them. Lucia was shaking with happiness, and Hiroki thanked for the invitation and he apologized for having to wait. Ruri and Ren were also happy. Ruri said that at first when Hiroki fell into the hands of the guards, she was very worried, but she was glad that he was no longer tied to the royal court. Ruri and Ren belong to the kingdom of Poinsot, and they cannot gather information on the continent of demons, as well as about the apricot grass. Hiroki replied that if he had said who he really was, that he was from the priest class, they would probably have put a guard on him, and he also said that he acted spontaneously. But he was glad that he became a healer. Ruri said that it was a wise decision. Lucia calmly called Hiroki and asked again if he really was a priest. Her face was slightly sad. Hiroki seemed to be in a panic and apologized for not telling her, but Lucia replied that she was fine. There was a special class priest, a mage, and a hero around. Lucia started shaking because she was an archer, and this was the lowest grade. Ruri suddenly said that Ren said that Hiroki had found a good companion for himself. That was why Ruri wanted to meet her. Ruri sipped her tea and said that she was very sweet and kind and that they should take good care of her. Hiroki replied that he got here only thanks to Lucia and smiled. Lucia was embarrassed and said that Hiroki was exaggerating, but she was glad to help, and even though she was the one who followed Hiroki. Ruri told Lucia that she probably knew a lot about them and that's why it was good that she was with them. Ren said that they had little information and that's why they would count on her. Lucia heard that they came from far away, and that's why if there was something they wanted to know, she would try to tell them. Ruki and Ren thanked her. Ren also said that they were now a team and they needed to share their data. Ruri was level 32 and she invested points in magic and defense as standard. Ren was also level 32, but he invested in attack and defense and took dodges following Hiroki's example. Usually Ren blocked enemy attacks with a shield, but sometimes he automatically dodged, and for him it was quite funny. Hiroki and Lucia were shaking and sitting in shock that Ruri and Ren were level 32. Hiroki was level 19, and Lucia was 21. Hiroki told Ren with a smile how strong he was and that he was still at level 19. Ren rolled back that he was already strong enough, and despite the fact that he did not receive the support of the kingdom, only Hiroki could do that. Hiroki thanked him, and it was already late, and that is why Ruri offered Hiroki and Lucia to spend the night at their place. There would be enough beds. Lucia was embarrassed and did not want to disturb anyone. Ruri and Ren booked 2 rooms, each room had 2 beds. Hiroki asked Lucia to accept the invitation and stay. Lucia bowed to them and said that she hoped they would get along well. The room was all furnished in a European style, and so there was even a bathtub, and each room had one along with a toilet. And Hiroki said that even though it was a luxury hotel, there were no hot springs here. And Ren answered that they were not here. Hiroki seemed to have received damage. Hiroki fell to the floor and said that he had just a little bit hoped that they were here. But Ren tried to calm him down and said that there was a huge bathtub. Lucia immediately jumped up with a question. A bathtub. She was surprised that there were baths in such high-class places. Before, she rubbed herself with warm water. Ruri was glad to see her happy and smiled. Lucia wanted to go just Ruri. But since they had just met, Ruri suggested going together. Lucia answered, with pleasure. Ruri wanted to listen to her stories, and Hiroki at that time also went and said that he would pretend that he was at the springs. Hiroki asked if Ren wanted to go first. Ren answered that he should not worry and go first. Ren smiled. Despite the pain the curse brought him, Lucia was delighted with such a big bath, and she and Ruri could easily fit in it together. Lucia was taking her first bath, and Ruri had already taken one with foam when she arrived here. Ruri was glad that Hiroki met Lucia and told her that he was expelled from the kingdom and was left without money. He also could not fight, and Ruri was afraid that he would travel alone. Lucia said that Hiroki was mysterious, but he was absolutely sure of what he said, and Lucia subconsciously believed him. Ruri also thought that he was mysterious. Lucia asked what he was like in their homeland. But Ruri herself did not know, even though they lived in the same city, but they met a couple of months ago, Ruri said while lying in the bath with Lucia. But soon their paths diverged, and Lucia obviously knew more about him. For Lucia, it was unexpected. Lucia hoped that she and Ruri would get along, as did Ruri. Meanwhile, Ren told Hiroki not to worry about him, and Hiroki asked, is he in pain? Ren said that he was rolling the treatment and he was fine. He also said that Hill treats physical pain, and it cannot take a curse, which surprised Hiroki. Ren said that it means he hides it badly and grinned. Hiroki thought that his curse is even worse than he thinks, and as if he ordered Ren to undress. Hiroki reached for his clothes and Ren screamed at him to stop. But Hiroki said no, not an answer. Hiroki tried to grab his hand, but Ren dodged, which surprised Hiroki, and Ren said that he would not be able to catch him. In the end, Ren understood and shouted that he would take it off now. He took off his top and there were black stripes on his body. Hiroki was flying that the curse spread so much, and it must have been very painful. Ren said with a smile that Hiroki should not be afraid, and he can withstand it, but just when the mark spreads. Suddenly, Ren doubled over in pain, and Hiroki got scared. Ren screamed, "Treatment!" more than once, and he knew it wouldn't work, but still. Treatment! Ren apologized for making Hiroki worry, and said that it would pass. You just have to wait. Hiroki screamed that he was an idiot, and how could he smile? Hiroki was a healer and couldn't do anything about it. Meanwhile, Lucia asked what was probably bothering Ruri, but asked to take care of her. Ruri replied that she shouldn't worry about it, and that they could just train and get stronger, and Lucia replied, exactly. After all, she would be fighting with a team of heroes. She was sure that she would become stronger in the blink of an eye. Ruri was happy with this attitude. Ruri remembered Lucia saying that traveling with Hiroki was fun, and asked if they were adventures, and asked if she could tell about them. Lucia said that she was not a good shot, and that was why she was not accepted into teams, but Hiroki helped her realize her potential. Ruri said that they were a great match, and in fact, Hiroki was on another team, but she joined him. The members of that team were careful to choose dungeon levels that suited her. But Hiroki noticed her abilities, and then she decided to travel with him. When he was going to the demon continent, she asked if she could be his partner. Hiroki had already told her about that team, and if Ruri remembered correctly, it was Floyd, Tina, and Dine. They were kind to Ruri, and she promised Lucia to introduce them to her when they returned to Panzat. Lucia replied that she would wait. Ruri was acquainted with some of the nobles, and Ren is liked by the princess and many of the young girls at court, and is respected by the soldiers, Ruri said, while Lucia was rubbing her back. Ren seemed very kind, and Ruri was worried that he was too kind to her, and suddenly Lucia, with a sad face, lowered her head and asked, "What's with his curse?" Ruri replied that she thought he was in a lot of pain, and he always tried not to show it. But The curse had grown so much that it was no longer possible to hide it. She used to check on him, but now he wouldn't let her examine him. Lucia sadly said that it was terrible. Ruri knew that Rin didn't like to make others worry about him, and even when he was in agony, he tried to bear it all with a smile on his face. And whenever she saw him like that, it hurt her too, she said, covering herself with her hands. Lucia and Ruri were sitting on the floor, and Ruri said that if Ren knew that they were worried about him, he would hide it even more even when he was in pain. Lucia understood. Meanwhile, Ren told Hiroki that the pain was going away and thanked him. Hiroki, with tears in his eyes, regretted that he was a healer and couldn't do anything. Rin asked not to say that, and in general, thanks to Hiroki, he has hope, and he is glad that they are together again. In fact, Ren was very scared. He was scared of dying in a strange world without a chance to meet his family. Ren, sitting on the bed, said that if something happens to him, then he really wants Hiroki to take care of Ruri. Hiroki suddenly became somewhat angry and shouted, "Don't give up. They're almost there." He also shouted that he promised to remove the curse and heal him. He shouted this while holding Ren's shoulders. Ruri said with a smile that as long as Hiroki was here, he knew he would be safe. Hiroki suggested getting rid of the curse faster. Ren started to say that when he gets rid of the curse, he will return to his W. Before he could finish, Hiroki interrupted him, shouting, "Don't talk, otherwise he will jinx it." Hiroki said that he had a bad feeling, and that's why he asked him not to finish. Ren with a grin said that Hiroki was strange, and that he returned his willpower. He was glad that he opened up to Hiroki. Hiroki, slightly embarrassed, said that Ren needed to rest. Ren agreed. Tomorrow they will go to the Sacred Demon Peak dungeon at noon. The girls and boys went to bed, but Lucia and Hiroki couldn't sleep. Hiroki wondered why he couldn't sleep. He noticed Ren's sighs and began to get up. He used Renu's healing and shield, lit a candle, and thought that if he went out, he wouldn't be able to level up alone. And then Lucia looked in from under the door. Lucia said good morning and asked if he couldn't sleep either. He said yes, and he couldn't sit idle. They were obviously thinking about the same thing. They decided to leave a note so that no one would worry. There was a sheet of paper and some ink and a pen on the table. They decided to explore the Sacred Peak dungeon and raise their levels by noon. They confidently went outside, and Hiroki said that probably nothing would change much, but they needed to gain experience. Lucia was not against it. Hiroki didn't want to be a burden to Ren and wanted to become stronger so as not to slow the guys down. They came to the Sacred Peak of Demons, and the walls there were bright, which made their task easier. They began to pump, and Hiroki was at least a little like Carrie, and reminded Lucen that he did not want to be a burden for everyone. He wanted to become so strong that he could pull even 100 others, and then the orc demons ran towards them. He had to work hard, because without killing a single monster you can't level up, and he missed everything while Lucia was shooting her bow right at the orcs. Hiroki praised her, and a new batch of orcs came running. The demonic versions of these monsters were quite strong, and for leveling up, it was the best. But on the other hand, they slowed down the progress. Lucia suggested using the same tactics as then. Hiroki replied that they would be surprised when they saw that they were acting, especially Ren. Hiroki's face changed to sad when he remembered him. His haste only led to Lucia being nervous, and therefore it was necessary to continue. As usual, after an hour they noticed a descent to the next level. Lucia thought that they should have reached the mountainside after passing this dungeon, so why were they going down? Hiroki suggested that if they went forward a little, there would be an ascent. This dungeon was deeper than they thought. They decided to go to the second floor, because they were doing well. The second floor looked like a limestone cave. There was a tunnel that led to some room, and Hiroki knew that there were no treasures there. But he was curious, and offered to see what was there. Lucia agreed. It was dark there, and Hiroki stepped on something. There were a bunch of goblins and demons with swords. They started fighting, and Hiroki didn't like that there were goblins again, and shouted, "Am I a goblin killer?" He activated the shield, and Lucia said to retreat. But Hiroki said that everything was fine, and he thought that they could handle it, even though there were wizards among them. But last time Hiroki dodged half of the spells. And besides, their task was to level up and suggested killing them one by one slowly. His demon-attracting potion was still working, and with his dodge and healing they would succeed. Hiroki shouted at Lucia to destroy as many of them as they could. Lucia shouted, "Got it." They fought, and they succeeded. But it was hard for Lucia to hit from such a distance. The goblins were almost right next to them. Hiroki thought they were in a tough spot, but in reality, it was a great place to level up. Hiroki leveled up when suddenly Lucia heard something. They were monsters from deep in the tunnel. This tunnel was deeper than this one, he thought, and the enemies kept coming. It was the purple goblin demon. Goblins were born, and their fighting potential was higher than that of other monsters. And suddenly, Hiroki was surprised by the goblin who shouted, "GYA!" A huge crowd of goblins was running towards them. Hiroki activated the heal and was shocked that their magic attack increased. Was it a buff? Hiroki told Lucia not to worry because he can dodge simple attacks and will receive healing more often. Lucia screamed that it was very risky. Hiroki continued to activate healing. Hiroki thought she was right, and thus he would turn into a regular healer without dodging. Everything would be fine, but one problem: healing. The indicator did not display health and mana, and therefore he does not know when to use healing. This made him feel offended, and suddenly Lucia shouted, "Hiroki!" Someone grabbed her by the shoulder. Someone used maximum power fire. It was Ruri who said that it was good that she managed to find them under the skill Search. She offered Ren to deal with the remaining monsters, to which he agreed. Ren said that it was terrible of them to leave without them, and Hiroki apologized. Besides, they came to a dangerous place, and too far, there were no more monsters left, and Hiroki and Lucia did not stop to thank Ruri and Ren. Ruri suggested Hiroki to set up the group bracelets, and she appointed Hiroki as the group leader. Hiroki asked if Ren was supposed to be the group leader. Ren said that Hiroki was more important, and he would feel more comfortable with him as the leader. Then Hiroki remembered Ren's words, if something happened to him. Hiroki insisted that Ren should be the leader, and Lucia was delighted that she was now in a party with the hero. The setup was complete. Now the experience was distributed to everyone. Ren had a lot of supplies in the form of ingredients and cooking that did not fit in their shrinking bag. This was the bag that reduces the size of the items in it. They used magic stones to shrink things like Lucia does with onions. They had room left in the bags, and they could take some of Lucia and Hiroki's things. The item disappeared. Their bags were shrinking the size of things with the magic of human stones, and Lucia and Hiroki's bags were enchanted with spatial magic. Ruri and Ren were surprised by this, and said that it was convenient. But they got them thanks to Ruri, which surprised her. Hiroki said that they exchanged the scarf for bags, and Ruri was glad that they were useful. Ruri asked who enchanted it. Lucia answered that it was in a special shop. She described the fairy, and Ruri asked, "Small and with wings?" Hiroki showed her height, and she was the size of a child, and he would like to meet her someday. They also said that the fairy helps them with the search for the alchemist who brewed them a potion. Ruri was also looking forward to this meeting. Ren had a map of the dungeon they were in, and he gave it to Hiroki. Hiroki said, "Thank you." He saw that they had to fight a boss to get through this dungeon, and Lucia said that with a map they would move much faster. Hiroki said, "Let's go," with a map in his hands, showing where to go. According to the map, the descent to the next level was there. Hiroki suggested distributing with the arrangement in battle, because they have an unusual group. Lucia sadly said that her accuracy is very low, and what if she hits one of them? Hiroki said that Lucia can kill with one shot, and if it is Ren, then Ren answered, "Yeah." Ren showed his shield to Lucia that he wouldn't let him die, and said with a smile that she should continue acting as usual. He wanted to see how he and Hiroki fight. He joked that they should imagine that they were shooting at him. "See how strong Ren is?" "Ruri," said Lucy. Lucia remembered how they shouted at her that they wouldn't take such a clumsy girl into the group. But Lucia thanked them, and Hiroki drank the potion and said that he would take on the monsters himself. He dodged them and jumped, just like in a circus. Ren was as expected impressed by Hiroki's reflexes, and if they hadn't been in battle, he would have applauded. Lucia began shooting. They fought. Hiroki put up a shield, hit the goblin. Hiroki hit the goblins, and set up a block. Ren said that there were a lot fewer monsters. Thanks to Lucia and Hiroki, it was an honor for Lucia to be useful to them. Ruri smiled and told Lucia that it was amazing how she could one-shot enemies. Lucia thanked her and said that she was pleased to hear that from Ruri. Hiroki was surprised that they switched to the informal form of address, and he would like the same. Now Ren and Lucia switched to the informal form of address. Ren was glad and thanked her. Hiroki was happy for both of them, but suggested that they move at the same pace, after which they continued their way through the dungeon without any problems. They went to the 10th floor and decided to set up their camp there. No one was against it. Since they had a lot of food, Ruri asked Ren to cook something for them. Hiroki was surprised that Ren could cook, and Ren told how he often had to cook at home. He also cooked snacks. As a part-time job, the girls wanted to set up tents, but Hiroki asked to give him this hard work. Ruri replied that they could handle it themselves and only needed to increase their size, and Ren also wanted to dry off a little. The girls left the cooking to the guys. The smell from the pot was very tasty, and Hiroki and Lucia had only eaten things that were easy to cook before. Ren was sure that it was a matter of time, and that Hiroki would be able to do it too if he practiced, and then Hiroki noticed that there were only 3 handkerchiefs. Ren said that they only use one tent while one of them stands guard, and if the place is safe, then everyone can sleep in their own tent. Hiroki was surprised and shouted that even with the financial support of the king, even in this they surpassed them. And now he remembered that even the rooms were different. But he and Lucia had to sleep in the same room, and even had to sleep in a small tent, and they are a guy and a girl. Ren agreed that it was a tough test, and that was why Hiroki tried not to think that he was dealing with a girl. Ren and Hiroki sat near the fire with a pot. He didn't want to put her in an awkward position, and yet she was his partner. And Ren said, "What if Hiroki's feelings for her?" And Hiroki screamed, "Ren!" Ren fell on Hiroki while kneeling, and it seemed to hurt him much more than last time. Hiroki wondered if the curse was progressing. Lucia was about to ask Ren if he was okay, but Ruri told her to pretend that she didn't notice anything. Ruri, with a serious face, explained that if a man endures pain by gritting his teeth, it's better to pretend that you don't notice. But Lucia told Ruri that sometimes masculinity is tested. Ruri heard this from men in her homeland, but that's why she had to pretend that no one noticed anything, and besides, Hiroki was with him. Ren asked Hiroki for forgiveness, but Hiroki activated his healing, and he needed to calm down. And suddenly that same fairy flew to the smell, and Hiroki told Ren that this was exactly the fairy he was talking about. Hiroki went after Ruri and Lucia. The fairy had a reason for such a sudden appearance, and it was the opening of the fairy shop. She had a special offer for Hiroki. She had a curse-removing potion made from the apricot herb. The price was very modest and only 20 million liko. Hiroki rushed and shouted that he was buying it. They fell together, and Hiroki asked if it was too expensive. As it turned out, the price was discounted, and Hiroki completely forgot that everything was expensive with the fairy. Ruri also thought that they didn't have that much money, and suddenly, oh yeah. Ruri suggested doing the same as with the scarf. The fairy replied that if she liked something, then yes. They had nothing interesting. And suddenly the fairy says, "How about Hiroki fulfilling her request?" Hiroki got scared. She will ask for something strange again. It was a very good deal, but Ren thought it was not a good idea, and if they did that, they would get into a lot more trouble, and it wasn't worth it. But the fairy said she wouldn't ask for anything crazy, and Ren apologized for doubting her. It's just that Ren signed the contract once and thought it was just a formality, but his carelessness cost him dearly. Now he's more vigilant. That's why he thinks that he shouldn't make a deal now. Ruri and Hiroki shouted angrily, "Ren!" But Ren said with a smile that they don't need to hurry, because they'll soon arrive at the alchemist who will brew them a potion. Ruri shouted that he's the one who needs to hurry. Ren gave up too easily, but they still didn't have enough money to buy him, and they would have to accept it. He suggested that they go to the alchemist and do as they had originally planned. Ruri screamed angrily how stubborn he was. The fairy said that no matter what curse was cast on him, it could only be removed with a potion of the apricot grass, and it was surprising that he was still able to continue his journey. The fairy guaranteed that fulfilling her request would not lead them to trouble, and why not buy the potion from her? Ren asked if she would refuse to sell it if they managed to brew it at the alchemist's, and that he would make every effort to collect the necessary amount. The fairy answered, "Of course." The fairy was delighted with the smell from the pot, and Hiroki apologized that they did not become buyers and promised to become a buyer next time. They will be able to buy whatever they want when the curse is lifted. Ren shared the soup with the fairy. Ren was required to deal with the demon lords as quickly as possible, so once the curse was lifted, he would have to do this. This meant that he was originally sent here to subdue the demon lords. The fairy ate the soup deliciously. Everyone praised Ren for such a delicious soup, and someone even envied Ren for having so many skills. They began to discuss what Eichmann is while sitting around a fire with a pot of soup. They reached the dungeon of the sacred demon peak and encountered monsters on their way, but the deeper they went, the more their numbers grew. Hiroki suggested killing them as they moved. Ren was surprised that they could do it now. On the way they met monsters' lairs. Going to the 25th floor, they finally got there, and it was the last safe zone and decided to rest. Hiroki was tired. Ren said that only thanks to Lucia and Hiroki they saved so much time. Hiroki laughed. On the next floor was the long-awaited boss room. It was marked with a black skull and crossbones. Ren asked Hiroki in surprise if he could dodge the boss's attacks. Hiroki answered that he could, more or less, and said that he had previously managed to dodge some attacks, but now he had improved his dodge skill, and besides, he had a shield. Lucia asked if they would kill the boss this time. Hiroki was thinking about it while he was thinking, and Ren asked again, "We won't kill?" Ren didn't have to kill the boss for the treasure, which surprised Ren, because otherwise he wouldn't get experience and it was a difficult choice. Because the boss gives a lot of experience, and Hiroki was also thinking about it. Ren asked if Hiroki wanted to try to defeat the boss. Hiroki was in a good mood and wanted to try, especially with such a team. They were already standing in front of the boss's room, and thanks to Ruri's search, they realized that there was no one inside except the boss. They opened the door, and Hiroki said, "Let's do it." It was dark there, when suddenly the lights on the walls were turned on. It was a huge skeleton with swords. That's what the skull and crossbones on the map meant. The skeleton looked at Hiroki sullenly, and Hiroki said, "This is undead." They began the battle. Ren was the first to start with his sword and shield. He cut off the skeleton's arm, but it was restored. Ruri's fire wasn't much use either. It would have taken a long time. But suddenly Hiroki shouted, "No!" He wanted to check something. He said he wanted to check if the same idea applies here. He stood in front of the skeleton with his arms outstretched and shouted, "Let's fight." Hiroki activated the treatment. Everyone was shocked, including the skeleton. There was a bright light everywhere. Ren didn't understand what was happening, but Hiroki defeated him. Everyone was shocked, and Lucia asked, "He used the cure, right?" Hiroki answered yes, and he wanted to check whether the healing magic would work on him or not. After all, the skeleton did not die after receiving damage, and he looked like a monster going against nature, and Hiroki thought that the treatment would go in the opposite direction. Lucia had never heard of such a thing, and Hiroki was glad that the knowledge from the game was useful in this world. It was fun to defeat the enemy, and he one-shot him. If they fought as usual, it would have been tough. They went to the treasure, and this chest looked much more luxurious than the previous one. That's how it should be, because they are in a high-level dungeon. It seems that Ruri and Ren were not the first to see such a chest. In the chest, there was a skill book and a chest full of Liko money. The blue book was the 5th rarest, which Lucia and Hiroki were thrilled about. Depending on the rarity, the book could be brown, green, blue, and red with gold. They decided that Hiroki would be the one to use the book. He got a skill cooldown. Lucia and Hiroki didn't understand what it was, and Ren said that they could see the skill value in the status window. Hiroki did so, and it was an active skill. This skill could be used to cancel enemy skills that last for a limited time. Ren said that it cannot be used to cancel passive skills that last forever. Hiroki wanted to try it, and Ruri called a spell for him to try. Ruri called water, and Hiroki said, "Skill cooldown." Lucia was delighted. But they had to get out of there and find the alchemist, but the stairs were so long that Hiroki couldn't see the exit, and it was very far away. The girls hoped that they would not spend the night on the road, and they all went up the stairs together. It was tiring, and Hiroki was reminded of a narrow-gauge railway for trolleys, because it also took quite a long time to walk there. Ruri was there too, as was Hiroki, who went there with his class and is now in the 3rd grade of high school. As it turned out, Ren is a year younger than him, but she looked completely different, and Ren said that they were the same age then. Hiroki Ren seemed calm and self-confident, and so he decided that Ren was older, and Ren looked so smart, and he obviously studied at some prestigious university. Ren spent most of his time working part-time at a cafe, and Hiroki could easily imagine him in a stylish cafe behind the bar. And Hiroki told Lucia that he could not determine her age. Lucia said that it was impolite to ask a girl her age. 2 days later, they found a way out and went out into the air at a great height. The clouds were very close, and right above them was a great tree. In the shape of a tree, it was a little cold there, and at night it would be much colder. Suddenly, Ruri turned around and asked, "Ren? Ren!" Ruri screamed as Ren fell to his knees. Ren was already at his limit. Ren no longer looked the same as before, and the curse progressed. Ruri regretted that they didn't buy the potion from the fairy. Suddenly, Lucia noticed a house with smoke coming from it. and it must have been the alchemist's house. They went there, taking Ren's hands and putting them on their shoulders. There were no monsters nearby. Hiroki asked Ren to hold on and not give in to the curse. They came to the house. It was big. Lucia went to check if there was anyone inside, and Hiroki hoped that there was someone there. There was someone there, and Hiroki recognized the voice. It was Pino. She came out of the door and was shocked. She recognized Hiroki and Lucia. Pino helped them when they were heading to the demon continent, and he thought that she might know about some alchemist master. But he never imagined that she lived in such a house. It was Pino's teacher's house, and she asked what happened to the man. Hiroki shouted that he was cursed. Pino immediately told them to bring him inside and called Hassan to help her. They put Ren on the bed, and Pino realized that he was in a very bad condition, and most of the people had already died. By this time, Hiroki wanted to ask Pino's teacher to brew a potion to remove the curse, but Pino said that there was none. The teacher won't be back soon, and the fastest is 6 months. Hiroki was terrified and shouted that they can't wait that long. Suddenly, Pino asked, "Did they come here just to see her teacher?" Pino said that she could make the potion herself, because she was a great alchemist. Hiroki was delighted, and he didn't expect anything else. Pino laughed. Pino knew how to do it, but she didn't have to cook it herself. And in the end, it needed rare materials. And what would she cook it from? Hiroki shouted that now only she could save Ren and asked to brew her potion from the curse. Pino said that they could count on her and they just had the necessary materials. But to create the potion, another ingredient was needed besides the grass, which surprised Hiroki greatly and made him angry. Fortunately, it could be obtained in the vicinity of this mountain, and obtaining this ingredient should not cause difficulties if they got the grass. It was the dew of the great tree, a rare liquid containing a high concentration of magical power, blessed by the tree itself. Hiroki remembered the tree on the top of the mountain, and it was not far from there. They all headed there, and the girl stayed with Ren to keep an eye on him. Pino stayed to brew the potion, and Hassan decided to take Hiroki there. Pino gave Hiroki a bottle to drip dew into. Hiroki apologized for causing trouble, and he and Lucia went. They were expecting strong monsters, and so Hassan said not to lose vigilance. Hiroki replied that they had met even worse monsters along the way, and Hassan said that the thing was that the plants here would scold the monsters, and they followed the road leading to the house. It was safe. But the path to the top was very rocky, and vegetation cannot cover the entire region. There could be predatory plants there, and one had to be careful, and monsters could already appear. Suddenly Hassan shouted in fear, "What?" A golem appeared right out of the rock. The golem was on the rock, and the fumes were waiting for the way, and they could not climb the mountain until they defeated him. And Lucia and Ruri said to leave it to them. They started to act as agreed, and told them both to move away. They took aim. They were ready, and Lucia shouted, "Arrow of wind!" Ruri shouted, "Fire!" The golem was immediately defeated. Hassan didn't think that golem could be defeated so easily. The girls on their team were just amazing. As Hiroki said, they went further and were already at the top of the mountain, and everyone was exhausted halfway up, except Hassan. He suggested taking a rest. Hiroki was delighted by the beauty of this tree, and in the roots, instead of earth, there was water. Hiroki thought that all this was dew, but no, they will have to swim to the place where the dew was to get it, Hassan said. Under the water, there was a cave that leads to the very heart of the great tree, and in it they will find the dew of the great tree. This meant that they had to stay underwater for some time, and Hassan said that there are air pockets where you can catch your breath. The cave was narrow, and it would be better for someone to go alone, and Hiroki decided that he would go. Lucia suggested that she go, but Hiroki said that he was good at holding his breath and thanked him for the offer. Besides, there could be monsters there, and therefore it would be better for Hiroki to go. Hassan said that he was right, and that it was most likely unsafe inside, and extra precaution would not hurt. Ruri suggested that Lucia leave this matter to Hiroki and wait for him. Lucia was very worried, and asked Hiroki to be careful, to which Hiroki replied that he would try. Hiroki's outerwear, he took off his clothes, and Lucia promised to wait for him with a fire. Hiroki dived. Lucia said if anything happens, swim back right away. Hiroki thought that this was the moment when he shouldn't spare his strength. He would have to endure it, because the water was cold. Hassan shouted to him that the entrance to the cave was to the right, and Hiroki found it. The cave was huge compared to him. He swam inside. He found one of the air pockets and swam into it, gulping in air. It would really be cramped there for 2 people, and there would be no monsters nearby. Suddenly, he didn't see where he needed to go. He was very happy and took out a bottle, saying, "Thank heavens." With this due, he could remove Ren's curse, and all that was left was to collect it. Suddenly, someone broke through his defense, which surprised him. It was a monster. He put up a shield in healing and couldn't understand why the monster was here. It was a fairy, and she said that she was waiting for him. She had a knife in her hands, and she knew that he would need dew to make a potion, and so she foresaw his coming here. Hiroki asked how she knew that it would be him. She replied that he was the leader of the four of them, and that was why. And maybe they always met this fairy because she was watching them all this time? The fairy admitted that she was not bored watching their adventures, and flew at him, holding a knife in front of her. Hiroki activated the shields, but it was useless, and she would have broken through all the shields he made. Also, Hiroki could not dodge the attacks. The fairy was very accurate. Hiroki was creating shields again, but he didn't have time for that, and he managed to collect dew. Suddenly, the fairy got angry and started shouting that apparently he wasn't taking everything that was happening seriously. Like I really tried to kill Hiroki, and the fairy was wondering how effective his regeneration would be. Hiroki already had the dew, and in order to escape, he needed to stop casting magic. And even if he runs out of steam and can't cast any more magic, he'll still keep running as fast as he can. Suddenly, he crashed. The fairy made a spatial barrier. The invisible wall was a powerful spell, and Hiroki was scared. The fairy was already saying goodbye to him. Suddenly, Hiroki got angry and said that since she was using magic against him, he had something to respond with. He used the skill cooldown. The fairy continued to fly towards him. Suddenly, she started to miss, and she was surprised, just like Hiroki. Hiroki was shocked that he was able to dodge her attacks, and she could not activate the skill to increase accuracy. The invisible wall also disappeared, and he could run away, but he realized that she increased her accuracy with the skill. And if the fairy will continue to think that he is an enemy, then it is not safe, and he asked her a question. Why is she doing this? The fairy fell into a stupor. The fairy and Hiroki met more than once, and such frequent appearances of the fairy are connected with her desire to get in touch with them. Or was she following them? The fairy asked, was he hiding his true class? He had no intention of shackle him, and it was just convenient for him to be called a healer. The fairy said that it made sense, otherwise he would have attracted a lot of attention to himself. She also said that a priest is a very valuable profession, and asked, didn't he hear King Joseph talking about it? King Joseph was the ruler of the kingdom of Paisnote, and they came by His Majesty's order. The fairy saw them at that parade with the heroes in honor of the campaign against the demon lord. The fairy was on the side of the demon lords, but she didn't want to kill because she and the heroes were good guys, and after lifting the curse, they would return to their original mission. That's why she set up an ambush to stop them, and Hiroki screamed that she got it all wrong. The fairy thought that they came to the demon continent to kill the demon lords, but it was just the opposite. They would have been glad to be friends with him. But Hiroki said outright that he hated King Joseph. He formed a hero team from them in order to kill the demon lord without even asking their consent. Obeying the Wolf King, he wore a contract bracelet that did not allow him to leave the country. Fulfilling this order in such a situation seemed impossible, and the real reason for their arrival on the demon continent was to search for the potion. The fairy said that it was just terrible. Hiroki was imprisoned and almost killed. He was simply hated. The fairy was surprised that they addressed him like that, knowing that he was a priest. But Hiroki never said that he was a priest, and the king considered him useless because he put all his points into evasion. The fairy said that if she heard something like that, she would have decided the same thing herself. The fairy didn't believe and asked for proof, and besides, he doesn't walk around with security. Hiroki couldn't prove it, but he asked to simply trust him. The fairy, having watched them for some time, came to the conclusion that she and the heroes were not bad guys, and bowed low to Hiroki. She believed him and apologized for her attack. She told Hiroki to quickly object to the heroes and heal before jumping into the water. She decided to show the way back. Hiroki emerged and apologized for the wait. Everyone who was there was slightly surprised that the fairy was with him. She activated his swimming acceleration and said that he needed to hurry. Because the hero was in critical condition, she flew forward to talk to them. But Hiroki shouted that they did not need to know about what happened in the trunk of the great tree, and there was no need to disturb them. He was glad that she finally agreed to help them. Hassan was told by Lucia that he would get there quickly alone, and it was so he could use a shield and dodge. They decided to meet at Pino's. A wind blew, and Hiroki's clothes dried in an instant. It was Ruri who caused such a wind, and Lucia gave him his cape. Hiroki descended from the cliffs in 1 second, which surprised Hassan and convinced him that he would get to Pino much faster than them. Even the carnivorous plants couldn't stop him. He ran, asking Ren to hold on. Hiroki burst into the house and apologized to the girl for waiting. Ren's mark had already reached his face, but there was still time. Pino was busy preparing the potion, and Hiroki went to take the dew from the tree, and the girl again stayed with Ren. Hiroki went down to Pino and gave him the dew, and now they could start making the potion. Pino, looking over the ingredients, turned to some grass in a pot and said seriously that now they need this. She asked Hiroki to cover his ears and open his mouth wider, which he did, and suddenly something that looked like a small ghost appeared. It was a mandrake, and few people knew about it. Hiroki told Pino that he didn't know that other ingredients were needed and asked if mandrake wasn't a rare ingredient. It was, but now there was an emergency, and so Pino used everything she had. Hiroki thanked her and promised to finish off the new ingredients, and in that case, Pino could give him something to do when they were done. Then they added the apricot grass. Hiroki asked, "Are you using only the grass leaves?" Only the leaves had the necessary property, and the fruits meant nothing except taste. And Pino began to read the spell. The fruits could be used to make it easier to take medicine. And other sweet ingredients changed the properties of the potion. No matter how bitter the medicine was, the apricot fruit gave it a very sweet taste. And Hiroki should remember for the future that when he tasted food, it would turn into a delicious meal. So whoever prepared it wanted to send it. After all, the fruits of this herb give medicines a sweet taste, but in cooking it is used as a poison. Meanwhile, it is time to add the dew of the great tree. This was a very important moment, and if it was necessary to monitor the temperature, and suddenly Pino said that now she had to be maximally concentrated, and asked not to talk to her. Alchemist, it was a complex art, thought Hiroki, while Pino adjusted the temperature and heated. Meanwhile, Hiroki remembered what the fairy said about how much time would be spent on making, and how Pino said what it meant, how to make this potion, but never did it. Making the potion was a very difficult process for someone who was not qualified. He was rooting for Pino and hoping that she could do it. Pino did everything with a pretty serious face. And finally, everyone else came back and ran shouting, "Ren!" Ren fell into a coma. Ruri asked Ren not to die, while the potion was being prepared. Suddenly, Pino dropped her head sharply, which scared Hiroki. She was just dizzy, and maybe she used too much mana. Hiroki used healing on her, and in an instant she felt good and she could continue, but she had a request. She asked shyly to support her until she finished. Hiroki answered that she could count on him. Lucia and Ruri approached Ren and slammed their hands on him, which hurt Pino. Hasanu shouted for them to move away. Suddenly, something resembling scales began to emerge from under Ren's blanket. Suddenly, a huge and long dragon crawled out. Ruri tried to defeat him with the wind, but it was in vain. It was a phantasm. Meanwhile, Pino and Hiroki finished the potion. Hiroki hugged Pino and he ran faster to give the potion. But seeing everything that was happening, he was shocked and realized that the curse was in the form of a snake. But Hassan warned Hiroki that this was a phantasm and he would not let anyone touch him. Ruri and Hiroki tried to touch, but even their shields were of no help. And suddenly, they were able to get to Ren and give him the potion. The dragon began to scream and gradually disappear. The dragon disappeared and Ren was no longer in the black stripes. They did it! Everyone was as happy as they could be, and everyone had smiles from ear to ear. Even Pino was happy, looking out from under the stairs while also lying on them. It was already morning, and Ren woke up. He was surprised that he was not in pain. And next to him on the chair sat Hiroki and the girl. The curse was lifted, and the mark disappeared. Ren realized with a smile on his face that now he would not die. Hiroki couldn't let that happen, and everyone promised to save him. Ren shed tears thanking Hiroki and Ruri, and he believed that they would save him. He was also glad that they were summoned to this world together. Ruri hugged Hiroki and Ren and said that together they will overcome any difficulties. Lucia went out to get some fresh air, but didn't dare go back in. But she was very glad that everything ended well. She decided to leave them alone, and when they calmed down, she wanted to give Ren her congratulations. Suddenly, a girl asked from below, "Lucia, are you awake yet?" The girl was standing right next to the griffin, lying on the ground. Lucia saw him for the first time in real life. Hassan and the girl caught him at Pino's request, and she asked where everyone else was. Lucia replied that she and Ren were from the same world, and she didn't want to disturb them. In that case, the girl offered to help them cook griffin meat for breakfast, and Lucia forgot that Pino also eats monsters. Suddenly, the monster stood up on its paws. It looked like an eagle, but it was huge and had 4 paws with long claws, and it seemed it was capable of self-healing. Lucia would like to help Hassan, but without Ruri from her arrows. And suddenly, Liliana said, "Enchanted arrows." She was also an archer and continued, "Automatic arrows." She had great strength without a bow, which surprised Lucia. Now the monster was definitely dead, and then Pino woke up wrapped in a blanket and shouted from the balcony, "Welcome back!" She was happy about the griffin barbecue, but she had to be patient, because Hassan had to cut it up. Lucia was impressed by Lily and asked if she was really a hunter. Liliana was pleased, and she really was a hunter. It was an advanced profession for an archer, and Lucia thought that she too should change her profession to take on the same level with everyone else. Suddenly, everyone who was in the house replaced what was on duty. It was noisy and someone was hunting. Ren was sorry that they couldn't help. Ruri told him not to worry. After all, he hadn't recovered yet, and Hassan and Liliana were masters of their craft. And besides, was he going to go out with such a tear-stained face? Ren would be embarrassed. Everyone started laughing that everyone had the same face as Ren. Sitting near Ren's bed, they were also crying from happiness. Ren cried like a child and was not ready to show himself to others. His eyes were red, and they looked to eliminate this with the help of magic treatment. It was very convenient. They decided to go to the others, and going out onto the street where Lucia was, they saw below how much meat the others were frying, and they congratulated them on their recovery and the lifting of the curse. Hiroki was delighted with the smell, Lucia shouted, that Pino had arranged a meat party for everyone. And a griffin one at that. Pino was even drooling. For her, it was a delicacy. The meat was already cooked, and Lucia finally congratulated Ren on his recovery. Hiroki, too, because without his help, nothing would have happened. Ren did so. He thanked Hiroki. They all decided to drink together for the release of the curse, and also for the potion successfully created the first time. Everyone drank to the bottom. They drank soda with honey and lemon. It was very refreshing and also very tasty. The meat was on one skewer with vegetables. They all started eating the meat, and it was absolutely delicious. It was firm and crispy on the outside, but soft and juicy on the inside. It tasted like Shamo, and it wasn't a monster. Suddenly, Hiroki started to move away from the crowd and started calling Pino to come over. He asked what kind of business she wanted to entrust then. But he shouldn't worry about it, and before that, Pino would like to know if they have already decided where they will go now. Hiroki answered that maybe they should look in on the Demon Lord, but the thing was, they were a team sent by the Paiznot Kingdom, and it seems Hiroki hadn't told Pino this yet. But Pino found out from the fairy, and it turns out that Pino and her teacher are on the side of the Demon Lords. Pino asked what they were going to do after they got to the Demon Lords. Hiroki was scared and said that she had misunderstood everything, and it was true that the king had given the order to destroy the Demon Lords, but their true goal. Hiroki made a serious face and said, "Return to their homeland." The thing is that you can't get to their homeland on foot, but he couldn't tell her about Japan because it would be hard for him to explain. In the end, he said that they are produced with the help of magic from that place. Even by ship you can't sail. The kingdom of Paisno had very advanced magic, and they were sure that the king would let them go home. But besides that, Hiroki called Ren and asked to show his bracelet to Pino to explain the situation. Ren was forced to wear this bracelet by the king's order, and because of this bracelet he had to pretend that he was following the wolf of the sovereign. Now they are leading the right Paiznot by the nose and looking for a way to remove the contract bracelet and also return the magic that can return them home. The Demon Lord must have known something that will help them, and Pino, having examined the bracelet, said that it is not easy to remove it and it is unusual. But Hiroki only wanted to talk to the Demon Lord in magic. Even if it would be difficult for the three of them to return, Ren would definitely want Ruri to return to her homeland where it is safe and there are no monsters. Hiroki shouted for him not to say stupid things, and they would definitely return there altogether. Pino couldn't even imagine a country without monsters, but it was more incredible than she could imagine. Hiroki gave her a mirror and a feather and said that the country has such things. Pino was shocked and said, "What kind of technology?" Pino had no idea what these things were, but she was already beginning to understand that she couldn't get into this place without magic. Ren and Hiroki decided to give Pino the pen, and she was absolutely delighted. These things belonged to the hero, and Pino believed them. She was very selfish. Returning to their previous conversation, Pino wanted them to deliver something to her teacher. Their visit to the Demon Lord would have to be postponed for now, since the teacher had to be found, as Hiroki thought. But in fact, there was one place that the teacher often visited. It was the castle of the Demon Lords. He was in the service of the Demon Lords, and there was a legal way to get into this castle. If Pino suspected them of ill intentions, she would send a letter to the teacher to deal with them, but she would send a letter written in her ink, and they should thank her for it. It would be great if the Demon Lord helped them. Ren thanked Pino again, which made Pino embarrassed and say, no need. She had a feeling that she was important as her teacher. She was praised, which made her even more embarrassed, and Hiroki asked what this Demon Lord looked like, but Pino had only seen porters, and yet he seemed intelligent and polite to her. His portraits were no longer sold in the city, and Hiroki suggested that maybe he would become an ally if they explained the situation. They decided, and Pino told Hassan to prepare a package for her teacher. They returned to the party, and suddenly a fairy looked out of the tree and called Hiroki. He told her with a smile that they saved Ren, and Pino organized a party. He invited the fairy to join. But in honor of the apology, the fairy offered to choose something from her goods, and she will not calm down until he chooses something. In this case, Hiroki began to choose and decided to take something from the equipment. He decided that it was worth mastering the equipment and remembered Lucia. What worried her was that she was the only one in their group who did not have an advanced class. The fairy showed the Ishtar ring. It increased attack by 20%, and it was very rare. It was worn on the little finger, and it should suit Lucia. He called Lucia and asked her to take off her glove. He put a ring on her little finger, and it was like that time with the team bracelets. She looked at the ring in surprise. But suddenly, Hiroki became embarrassed, and he asked the fairy, "Isn't this a common accessory in games?" The fairy smirked, and Hiroki thought that this action definitely made sense, and he was very worried that Lucia would say that it was terrible. But Hiroki just attached too much importance to it. He told Lucia what kind of ring it was, and she was very happy, and now she can handle any monsters. Hiroki counted on her and said that the ring was given by a fairy. The fairy joined the party, and everyone had fun. It was already over, and everyone had gone to bed, but Hiroki looked at Ren with a smile. Lucia asked, "Can't sleep?" She said that she didn't know that Liliana was a hunter, and her automatic arrows were impressive. Hiroki said how good it was that they lifted the curse from Ren, and now they were heading to the Demon Lord's castle. He apologized for being selfish for not consulting her, but Lucia said that they were partners, and they shouldn't act like strangers. Lucia trusted Hiroki with the choice of direction, and she deserved the opportunity that she was traveling with her. She was very happy that she was with him. Hiroki came to this world. He met many unpleasant types like the king, but he also met Lucia and Pino's team. He wanted to cherish the relationship with the inhabitants of this world, as well as with the two who came with him to this world. Lucia asked what was the matter, but Hiroki simply realized that Lucia was very dear to him. He was glad that he met her and thanked her. Lucia was very grateful to him. They laughed, lying each in their own bed. The next morning, a letter was already ready for Pino's teacher, as well as the monsters for the road. Pino gave the letter to the hero team, and Hiroki thanked her for everything they did for them. Liliana reminded them that they should not rush to deliver to the teacher, and Hassan said that on their way there would be many dungeons that would be good to look into, and Pino also said that in the treasures of high-level dungeons, you can find different books except those that allow you to learn new skills. Lucia wanted to level up, and they decided to stop by the dungeons on the way. The team thanked everyone, and they went. They walked along the sacred Peak of Demons. Hiroki and Ruri thought that Pino was a very good and cheerful girl. They will finally go into the depths of the demon continent, and for the four of them, and Ruri said about this, they will have to act separately. Since they had been hiding for a long time, and the Paisnot soldiers might become suspicious if they were together, Hiroki's actions could be limited. But Hiroki said not to worry, and that he would deliver the package himself. In that case, they had to distract the soldiers and gather information from the Demon Lords. But Ren himself would like to meet them and asked Hiroki to get an autograph. They all came to a city north of the Sea of Trees, and there their paths diverged. Lucia promised Ruri that by the next time they met she would be stronger than her dad, and they hugged goodbye. Ruri asked her not to do anything rash and to contact them through the Adventurers Guild if any problems arose. The boys told each other to take care of themselves. Hiroki told Ren not to make dubious deals. Ren asked, "Is he so unreliable?" Hiroki trusted him. Ruri and Ren said that they would see each other again and went to the gate. Ren's fans were already chasing him, and it was scary for Lucia to have people chasing you. The knights were discussing what this hero was doing, and that they didn't know where he was now, and they were using pigeons to deliver messages, but it took a lot of time. The king didn't care, and how useless the soldiers were to him. He will not forgive the demon lord. It was already night, and Tina knelt down in front of the window. Hiroki, again as the other girl lying there, understood, and Tina was wondering how the others were doing. Tina was praying for Hiroki to continue his journey safely. The next day at the guild, that little girl at the counter congratulated Hiroki and Lucia on their return. She never found the alchemist, and Hiroki remembered that he had not removed the ad. Hiroki told how they did everything and removed the curse, and the girl was happy to hear it. Hiroki now wanted to know how to get to the Great Demon Castle, and also the dungeons that they will encounter along the way. They could rent a carriage, and the castle was on the opposite continent, and they would need 3 months. Hiroki was of course surprised, but they were in no hurry, and the leash would make stops in big cities where there were dungeons. Lucia wanted to conquer every dungeon. The girl gave them a map of the dungeons, and they decided to go to the next city and conquer the nearest dungeon. Lucia did not object, so they resumed their journey. Before reaching the city, they were in a dungeon. Someone bought a lot of healing herbs, and so they go to the 3rd floor. Hiroki decided that their levels would be enough and move. On the demonic continent, there were also dungeons for beginners. Lucia was surprised when Hiroki suggested going into even low-level dungeons, and with their levels he could ignore them, but they were tender to make up for the shortfall. He meant skills. That's why the books will become the study of skills of new rooms. Hiroki believed that there is no such thing as too many skills, and looked at the dungeon map and there were only 5 floors. They decided to leave the potion to attract monsters to the less populated floors and gave Lucia a shield. He immediately remembered the dungeon in which they were with Tina, and her companions, Lucia and Hiroki, were wondering how they were doing now. Hiroki came up with the idea that since he didn't drink the potion, they would attack Lucia. Hiroki picked up Lucia and they raced through the slimes. It was cool and fun, but Hiroki was unsure about his stamina, so he would need to rest. They were already on the 3rd floor and there were much fewer people there, and it was high time to drink the potion. Suddenly someone in the distance shouted, "Excuse me, are you okay?" Hiroki used shield, healing, and regeneration and said not to worry about wasting precious mana. The girl and the guy asked for help because a group of adventurers stumbled upon a monster lair. Hiroki immediately ran there. They started fighting, and the girl, dressed as a nun, drank the potion and healed Hiroki. Someone shouted, "Kya!" Hiroki said there was no need to shout, and around him were monsters that he had collected along the way that looked like moles. He told them to calm down and said that he drank a potion to attract attention and asked them to come to him. The moles began to attack him. He fought them and used magic. The moles did not hit him. Lucia, meanwhile, told the 2 girls not to worry about them and to rest for now, and could they please move away? After all, their attacks are dangerous. Lucia started shooting at the crowd of moles. The girls were scared. She hit, and arrows flew at him, and the girls were in complete shock that Hiroki dodged the arrows. They defeated the moles, and the adventurers bowed and thanked them. They saw such a battle for the first time and asked what their profession was. Hiroki said, and they were surprised that he was a healer with evasions. They were grateful for the mana he spent on them, and if he needed any dropped items, he could take them. But Hiroki was quite satisfied with the experience he had gained. The adventurers wished them luck, and Hiroki and Lucia went further, and among them was also a healer. This profession was very rare, and the adventurers were still surprised by such an unusual method of battle. Lucia and Hiroki were already on the 5th floor in the boss's room, and there were white eyes in the darkness. It was a mini skeleton, although it was cute, but for them it was quite big. But for Hiroki it was a piece of cake, and he used the treatment. The skeleton was defeated in 1 strike. There were 2 books in the treasure chest, and they were pleased to get 2 books. For so little effort, Lucia couldn't believe that she had gained a new skill. They took a book each and studied them. They got the skills Safety Circle and Water Arrow. Hiroki opened the status, and his skill created a spherical protective barrier, and it looked like it was a shield. Hiroki decided to test the Safety Circle. His shield was around him like a ball, and there was no limit to the number of attacks he could absorb. Lucia realized that while he was inside, he was invincible. The shield let in those who were considered allies. It was the same as in a tent, and they could rest right in the lair of monsters. They decided to collect chests and other dungeons exactly like this. The Demon King of Orcs appeared. Then they met the Demon King of Rabbits. He was very cute and hard to fight, but they defeated him too. They were going to the Demon Lord's castle soon, and they had gotten 4 books. Hiroki suggested they see if they could help boost her combat ability. Ren had a skill that increased attack power, and it would be great to have one. They wanted to try to get it by tripling the gacha in 4 tries. Lucia wanted to split the books, and Hiroki agreed that he would use one book at least 3 times himself. Lucia said he was very excited and agreed. Hiroki got the skill Magic Search, and Lucy got the Arrow of Fire. It was not bad, but they did not go together. Then she got an Arrow of Earth, and now the last attempt came. She got the Arrow Enchantment. Lucia was very happy, but Hiroki was upset. But Lucia said that Liliana had this skill, and with this skill she would shoot arrows much faster. Hiroki realized that this reduces the interval between attacks, and this will lead to an increase in her combat ability. Tomorrow they were supposed to be in the city, the castle of the Demon Lord. Lucia was impatient to see him. They arrived, and the castle was very big. They said it was hard to get to, but they thought it was easy. They had never been to this castle before, and the cart would only take them to the city at the foot of the mountain, as the girl who was with them said. To get to the castle, they had to get to the castle town at the top, and they would have to go through the dungeon. There were only 3 dungeons, and one of them could raise them in 4 days, but they would have to meet strong monsters and could only be passed by a group of high-level adventurers. The difficulty in the second dungeon is in the incredibly long road. The path takes about 2 weeks. Pino would clearly not go along it. The third dungeon is the most problematic. There are monsters galore, and it was even called the Hell of Endless Monsters. But for Hiroki and Lucy, this dungeon was just the thing. Fenrir's was roaming the lower floor. Even a squad of 10 people was forced to retreat. Although the girl said that they were a good team and that everything in life should be tried, she was ready to support them. They arrived, and on the right-hand side, there was a city, and on the left-hand side, there were dungeons. For them, it was atmospheric. The girl promised to pray for them, and they went. On the first floor, they fought with a bunch of slimes. They didn't expect that it could get so pumped up here. There were goblins on the second floor, and if Hiroki and Lucia were having a hard time, they could go back to the first floor. They went down to the 5th floor, and they overcame it. Then there was the 9th floor with thunder Fenrirs. They looked like wolves. Hiroki used the skill cooldown, and they went further. They were already on the 10th floor. The arrangement there was much more luxurious than in ordinary dungeons. They came to the boss room, but the door did not open no matter how much Hiroki pulled the door handle, and since it did not push, Hiroki decided to pull, and the door swung open. There were demonic skeletons. They were huge and completely black. The room was filled to capacity with them. Their problem was that they couldn't make more than one safety circle, but fortunately the enemies were undead, and so Lucia could also deal damage. They could only destroy 5 skeletons at a time. They realized that they were here for a long time. They repeated their technique, and the fire spread to other skeletons. They continued in the same spirit, and Lucy was doing quite well. Suddenly, Lucia fell and Hiroki ran up. She had symptoms exactly like the mud when she ran out of mana. As he thought, she was all red when searching for magic. Lucia just needed to rest, but first he had to deal with the remaining skeletons that were advancing on them. He covered Lucia and she lay on the floor. Lucia woke up. Hiroki explained the situation that she fainted, and Lucia asked for forgiveness and realized that she got too carried away. She promised to be more careful. Hiroki's heart almost jumped out of his chest, and he decided that he himself should monitor her condition. He asked to look at Mana Lucia, and now she has fully recovered. But Hiroki didn't understand whether it was a lot of mana or a little, because it was shown as a strip. Lucia saw Hiroki's strip and wanted one too. She asked what she needed to do for it. But after all, he was a representative of the magic class, and Lucia's class was an archer, and she wouldn't need that much mana. Before opening the chest, they decided to take a rest, and after taking a rest, they went in. The setting was luxurious, and they thought it was some kind of special dungeon chest. They opened the chest, and there was a book on a pillow. Hiroki had never seen a book with such a cover. It had a leather cover, and in the middle there was a precious stone. The book looked more like an ancient manuscript. The book had an unfamiliar language, and it seemed to be in an ancient language. They decided to ask the guild about it and came to the exit of the dungeon. They were high above the Demon Lord's domain and were delighted. Around the huge castle were ordinary houses that glowed. They were glad that they had finally arrived. Meanwhile, the girl they were traveling with, sitting on the bed, was thinking what a funny couple they were. and whether they had made it to the dungeon. The castle looked like the final stage of a family game, with Viennas flying around it. The city was surrounded by a barrier. And how did the monster manage to break through it? Hiroki's potion was still working, and he decided to pull them all to him. He told Lucia to attack. The dragon shot black lightning at Hiroki, but on the roof stood a man in a black cloak and pointy ears. It was he who launched the black lightning. Suddenly, all the similar ones who were on the wing shouted, "Hooray!" Lucia and Hiroki looked at them and shouted to them, "Hey, you two!" "They were saved by Mr. Clyde," said the girl who was on the roof. "They were probably all city guards." Lucia said that was so cool. And maybe this was the Demon Lord. At least he behaved decently, and maybe they would meet him in the castle. But it was dangerous to leave the barrier broken, and Hiroki thought that it would be done soon. The next day, the barrier was restored, and Hiroki and Lucia were already standing in front of the gates of the Lord's castle. Standing up, Hiroki told the guard that he was instructed to deliver a package to Mr. Cruz. The guard thanked them for their hard work. But Mr. Cruz was not in the castle, and they could leave the package here. The guard asked if it would be okay for them if he himself delivered the package when Mr. Cruz arrived. Of course, that could be done. But then they wouldn't be able to talk to Cruz about an audience with the Demon Lords. They didn't want to miss that chance, and Hiroki insisted that he wanted to deliver the package in person. Then the guard asked how they would like him to inform them of Cruz's arrival. Hiroki said to send a message to the guild. This was not how Hiroki had imagined visiting the castle, but they had to admit that the Mizoku guard was kind. So they decided to go to the guild and find out about the books they had found. They arrived at the guild and gave the girl a book so that she could tell them what kind of book it was. Hiroki explained that no one could read it, and the girl looked, but unfortunately, she couldn't read it either. But she said that maybe in the magic library against the castle they could find some kind of clue. Hiro and Dutia were delighted, because they knew about this library very well. In this case, the girl decided to explain the way to them. At the entrance, they had to present their adventurer cards, and Hiroki was just given one. And also, Hiroki asked what the Demon Lord was like. But even the guild didn't know anything. They thanked her and headed to the library. They arrived at the library, and the guard asked for identification. They were let in, and inside the library, their breath was taken away. Hiroki asked where they would start, and he found a guidebook. On the way there, Lucia explained to Hiroki how to read the local letters. And he could help with the search. It seemed there were several types of books. There were magical, first class, and special ones. They could only look at the normal and magic books as they were told at the entrance. Also, the magic ones could not be rented, and they were tied with a chain. They decided to start with the normal ones, but they could not find a book with the same symbols as in their book. It turned out to be more difficult than they thought. The book had several illustrations where the locations of all the world trees were indicated, and there were also 3 races presented. And how could this help? There was still time before Cruz objected. Although they hadn't looked through half of the books, they decided to take up the magic ones tomorrow. It was already late, and they also decided to take a couple of books with them to the hotel. Suddenly, Lucia saw something while walking down the corridor with Hiroki. She found interesting books, and one of them was about professions. Hiroki saw a book about taking an advanced class. Hiroki found a book hunter, and they decided to rent it. Hiroki from the beginning had an advanced profession, but Lucia did not say this. But it seems that she was very upset that she sat with the archers for so long. They decided that after they gave the package, they would try to make Lucia a hunter. For Hiroki, it did not matter where they were going, and he was glad that there was an opportunity to travel. Lucia looked very happy, and as he understood she had long wanted to become a hunter, the future hunter had to meet with a deity on the continent of Tangerine. But Hiroki had no idea where it was. It was to the east of the Demon Continent, and it was the land of beast people. But Hiroki had already met representatives of races that were not like humans, and elves were the best for him. Suddenly a fairy appeared and winked and asked, "What about me?" They were surprised by her appearance, and for the fairy, it was her territory, so it was normal for her to be here. The fairy was also a servant of the Demon Lords. Hiroki asked to tell about him, and the fairy agreed, although she herself wanted to ask something related to the Demon Lords. The fairy could not talk about it in the library and suggested a change of scenery. Although he and the fairy had many problems, in the end she even helped Hiroki out. They came back to the castle gate, and the guard asked the fairy, "Are these your clients?" To which the fairy replied yes, and they entered the castle. Dusha and Hiroki were surprised that they just entered the castle. Inside the castle there were 2 huge staircases on the sides, and the fairy told them to go up. They sat down at the table and drank tea, when suddenly the fairy said that she wanted Hiroki to meet the Demon Lord. But Hiroki wanted to ask for the same thing, because they had been looking for a meeting with him from the very beginning, to find out how and in what way they could return to Japan. The fairy was happy, but they faced the problem of succession to the title. The previous Demon Lord suddenly died, and a new one came to replace him. He had been a recluse since birth, secluded in the prince's tower, and appeared in public only on special occasions in order to fulfill his duties. He was a natural-born hikikomori. The fairy wanted to ask them to meet the Lord and help him decide on ascending the throne. Officially, he was not the Lord. The Lord fulfills his duties as successor, but the coronation had not yet been held, and they decided not to tell the people anything for now. The fairy thought that maybe the Demon Lord would open Hiroki's heart. Hiroki asked the fairy not to speak so directly. Hiroki asked what the Lord looked like. He and Lucia were shocked when they heard that he was young and that he was a 13-year-old boy. Lucia asked what about his mother. Mother passed away along with the previous overlord. Hiroki and Lucia realized that the severity of his life situation had already broken through the ceiling. They decided to go and talk to him. The fairy was incredibly grateful, and she immediately began to escort them to the tower. The fairy called Hiroki strange, and he did not like it. The fairy was recognized by some man who was also walking along the corridor. He asked the fairy who these people were, and the fairy replied that they were her guests. The man was glad to meet them. He was surprised when he heard that they were going to arrange a meeting with the ruler, and said that it was an honor for them to meet Lucia and Hiroki. The noble-looking gentleman was the chancellor, and he was responsible for state affairs. They had already arrived at the prince's tower and were let through. There was even a courtyard, and a pet of the lord named Pakaru, and he had a wild temper. Some man was feeding grass to the Pakaru. This was the Demon Lord. He had hair that almost covered his eyes and glasses. He was orphaned early and received the right to take the throne as soon as he turned 13. Hiroki said, "Long bangs again." The master, like his servant, had an appearance that did not inspire confidence. The master also wanted to meet Hiroki, and he and Lucia introduced themselves. The lord simply left, slamming the door, which greatly surprised Hiroki and Lucia. He was shy, and the fairy asked him to wait. She flew to him. When she came back, she said that it wouldn't work out today, and she was very sorry. They all decided to see each other tomorrow. The ruler looked at them through the window. Lucia and Hiroki came to the tavern and discussed that the lord was afraid of strangers, and Lucia wanted to support him. She was in tears, thinking that he ended up in such a calico at 13 years old. Hiroki also wanted to help him, and it is unlikely that the master has the information that Hiroki wanted to get. Suddenly, Hiroki shouts, "What kind of abomination is this?" It was a bloody pudding. Unlike Lucia, he had never eaten anything like this. This pudding was very nutritious, and became tastier once you got used to it. Hiroki said that he would try to eat it all. Still, it was better for him if the pudding was sweet. Lucia asked, how about buying some treats for the demon lords? Hiroki said that it was great and would be a reason for conversation. The next day they came to him again. He was hugging his pet. When he did this, he looked like a cute child. Hiroki thought about how to talk to him so that he wouldn't run away to his tower again. He and Lucia watched as the Pakaru cutely licked the ruler's face. He took out a handkerchief to wipe himself, and Hiroki came to the show. It was Ruri's handkerchief. Hiroki shouted that it was Ruri's handkerchief, and the lord got scared. But he didn't run away, but answered sternly that the fairy had given him the handkerchief. He remembered what the fairy had told him about the healer, with evasions with whom she had made an exchange. The fairy told about Hiroki and the strange healer, and it seems the ruler understood the idea. But King Joseph threw Hiroki into prison after learning about his choice. The ruler was Titus Apricot, and he apologized for the last time. Hiroki and Lucia introduced themselves again, and he said that they came from the Paisnat, and they were not enemies, the lord did not doubt, because the fairy would not bring someone who could harm him. Lucia handed Titus a biscuit made of walnuts. The lord agreed to try them, and Lucia and Hiroki were touched by how he ate them. Titus looked like a squirrel. Giving him sweets was a good idea, and Titus knew they had come to convince him to hold the coronation. Suddenly, he stomped towards them. He went into his tower, and looking out from under the door, said that there would be no coronation and asked for forgiveness. That was all they managed to achieve that day, but it was already progress that they were able to talk to them. They decided to bring more treats tomorrow, and since then they became frequent guests in the Demon Lord's castle. Hiroki noticed the donuts, and Lucia didn't even know what they were, and was slightly surprised that they were spherical. Titus reasoned that his position that they had come to persuade him to hold the coronation had misled them. He asked the fairy if she had sent them to him specifically for this purpose. The fairy replied that she was terribly angry with her, but she could not worry because they would not say anything that would put her in an awkward position. Earlier, the eccentric healer had put all his points into evasion and thus incurred the wrath of King Joseph. However, by nature he is a good person who values his friends. Hiroki often acted contrary to accepted norms and therefore would not demand proper behavior from others. The fairy asked, wouldn't it be easy for Tita to communicate with him? Suddenly Hiroki knocked, and the fairy thought that Titus had lost. They decided to invite Hiroki to Titus's tower. The fairy brought them with Lucia. They came again with sweet gifts. Titus agreed, but only if a little. The maid took the gifts and Titus said to go down. They asked the fairy what was on the table. She answered that it was a game and the master always comes here to play, Titus told her. Who pulled your tongue at all? Hiroki said quite loudly and involuntarily that it was cool. He also loved to play, and the lack of opportunity to play tormented him. Titus hadn't played in a big company for a long time and offered to play. Hiroki was incredibly happy. He even forgot that he was dealing with a demon lord. The fairy explained what kind of game it was. The game was about balance, and it was necessary to take stones from the bottom and put them on top, trying not to collapse the structure. It was something like Jenga, or knocking down a pillar. The crystal in the center balanced the structure, and the ability to read the wind is the key to victory. Hiroki did not understand anything at all, and adding magic made it a completely unrecognizable game. Titus suggested playing a friend, and Hiroki was interested in what other games can be seen in isekai. Another game was called Life Cycle in the Demon World, where you had to throw a dice and then move as many cells as you got and read the inscription on the cell. I knew Hiroki. This game didn't use magic because it's good old Sugoroku. It's a simple game for kids and no challenge. Suddenly Hiroki thought that Titus had not played in a big company for a long time. The game ended after 2 rounds, and the winner was the one who had the most money by the end of the game. Titus must have really wanted to play it. Titus apologized and asked what kind of sweets these were. They were donuts that looked like donuts, and Titus didn't understand why there was a hole there. Hiroki said that it was tastier and more interesting, and he loved them. Titus tried it and smiled. Lucia and Hiroki were very happy. They started playing. Each had to start with 10 million liko. Lucia went first and she rolled a 5. She rolled to ride around the park with a pakara in the courtyard and find 1,000,000 liko, and it was really sweet to do. The fairy shouted, "Me! Let's go outside!" Lucia was nervous about riding the pakara. Lucia was afraid that he wouldn't hold up, but even a big person could easily ride him. Pakara didn't bite, and it was worthy to do a circle around the garden. Lucia had already ridden Pakara. If Lucia fails, she will lose 5 million. Lucia did it. They continued playing, and someone got to eat sweets for 1,000,000. Titus got to receive 3 million liko and a gift from the previous player. The fairy suddenly found herself in last place. The fairy gave Titus 3 million liko and apricot grass. Hiroki said that she promised to keep it since he got another one, so easily parted with such rare things. Hiroki was lying, just like Lucia, to ride the Pakara. Hiroki said that the Pakara should go easy on him. Pakaru was trying to bite him. He was sweet and gentle with Lucia. No matter how much Hiroki tried, nothing changed. But if Hiroki stumbles, he will lose 5 million. They continued playing, and Hiroki was losing miserably. With the last move, 1,000,000 liko were taken away from him. He had 4 million, Lucy had 12 million, the fairy had 9 million, and the ruler had 18 million. Lucia came to the finish line, and 109 million won liko. The fairy 74 million won, the lord 141 million, and Hiroki only 61 million won. The demon lords smiled more and more often. And if they managed to maintain the atmosphere for their next meeting, then Titus knocked out a task where it was said to make a bet with the one who was standing right in front of him, and it was Hiroki. The fairy hinted to Hiroki that he could ask Titus to conduct the coronation ceremony, and in that case, if Hiroki wins, they will invite Lucia and Hiroki to dinner. It was much more important to build a good relationship with Titus, and would like to end on a good note. Titus was surprised by Hiroki's choice. and asked to let him choose the topic of their dispute. He wanted to find out if Hiroki could dodge Titus's spells. He used this as an excuse to test Hiroki, and he didn't know how strong Titus was, but Hiroki accepted the challenge. There weren't many trees behind the tower, so they agreed on 3 rounds. Dodging saved Hiroki less from spells than physical attacks, and with Titus it must be especially tough. But he was flattered that his dodging skill was being matched against that of the Demon Lord himself. It was pretend, and Hiroki relaxed. They started fighting, and Titus used a beginner's spell, water. Hiroki dodged, and Titus used fire. Hiroki was surprised by the radius, and he knew that Titus was just holding back. Hiroki dodged. It was a homing spell, and it was flying straight at Lucia. Hiroki ran towards her, shouting, "Lucia!" He put up a defense, and Lucia apologized and said she should have moved away. A spell of such power could have killed, but the fear on Titus's face indicated that it happened by accident. Something was clearly wrong here. The fairy said that the gentleman was to blame, and because of him, Lucia almost died. It seemed that Titus lost, but Hiroki defended himself with a spell and also lost. The master's desire was to dine with him, which Hiroki was glad about. The Demon Lord had won. The maid brought them a peach and celery salad, and for Hiroki it was an unusual combination, but for Titus it was ordinary food. Everyone liked it, and this food was different from the usual food. For Lucia and Hiroki, they usually eat home-cooked food. In Hiroki's homeland, there was a completely different gastronomic culture, and therefore the local cuisine never ceased to amaze. It was extremely difficult for Hiroki to get used to it. Hiroki said that Tina told about the local culture, and she was the same age as Titus. Suddenly, Titus was surprised. She was an adventurer and a novice magician. She was also the first companion. Tina must have been working hard and the pay's not even now, and Titus asked if it was hard for her. After all, an adventurer is a dangerous profession, but she had 2 friends with her, so everything was fine. Hiroki trusted her, and Lucia said that Tina trusted him completely too. Titus asked, "Didn't you feel it?" Hiroki praised the first meat and was brought a small dessert. This dessert was an apricot fruit, and suddenly Hiroki remembered Pino's words that this fruit is served in food in case someone wants to fatally poison him. First, Titus tested him with magic, and now they are trying to poison him. Besides, Lucia had another fruit, and only he had apricot. Having made the wrong decision, he could die. He was tested again, and if so, he wished him a pleasant appetite and took the fruit to eat. Titus's face was dejected, but the fairy's was pleased. He said the dessert was delicious, and Titus said he thought Hiroki would hesitate further, and he knew and still ate it. Hiroki didn't mind being tested, and they could do it as much as they wanted. Hiroki trusted him as a game partner, because there are different personalities among game fans, but during the game, the character of your component is transmitted. The main thing was to show the boy that there are people in the world he can trust. But because of Titus, a person could have died, and he asked if Hiroki would blame him. Hiroki answered that he would not, which surprised Titus greatly. Hiroki thought that there was some incident in the past, and Titus apologized that he was checking on him, and tomorrow he will be busy studying the meeting report, and said to come later. Hiroki was glad, and they will see each other tomorrow. Even if Titus is a blood relative of the previous demon lords, what is the point of him becoming a ruler if he is unable to protect the country? The man who was met by Lucia, Hiroki, and the fairy in the corridor wondered. The barrier around the castle was the responsibility of the lord to maintain, and it was breaking. It was obvious that he lacked magical power, and in fact, the wyverns had become a real headache lately. Only thanks to Mr. Clyde, who always eliminated them, they could sleep peacefully. The person who could become the new demon lord was the eldest son of a woman with enough magic power to maintain the castle. These 2 conditions were considered necessary until now, but one of these conditions was not met by Titus, and the nobility did not have a worthy candidate for the role of ruler. Therefore, for the sake of the future of the country, it was necessary to appoint someone with a high supply of magic as the new ruler. The old man said at the meeting that, aren't they waiting for Titus to grow up? But 2 years have already passed, and his magical power hasn't changed. Also, the number of wyverns has increased, and perhaps they will attack in a pack, and the hero who was tasked with destroying the demon lord was already on his way. The man also said that if they hesitated, the country would perish. His name was the Chancellor, and another man asked him, does that mean he has a real candidate in mind? And he replied that it was his grandson, Clyde. Dariel's new treat and decided to go to the castle again. Lucia said that Hiroki could have been killed by a spell and poisoned, and that Titus was dangerous, but Hiroki was sure that Titus had no intention of killing him. Titus was like a drowning man, because drowning people are preoccupied with themselves and do not care about others, and the rescuer must realize the risk he is taking. Who is not used to dealing with people will have a hard time learning to trust them. If he and Lucia want to win Titus's trust, they need to show him their fortitude. They came to the castle again, but later than usual. In the corridor, they again met the same man as in the corridor. His name was the Chancellor, and he was the second in power after the Demon Lords, governing the state. They were met by a maid, which seemed strange, since before they were always met by a fairy. And when he went there, Hiroki felt that something had happened, and the atmosphere was completely different, and apparently the Chancellor was here. Titus had a request. This tower was the entrance to the royal family's dungeon, and Titus asked to accompany him there to the far part of this dungeon. There, he will make a decision about ascending to the throne. Hiroki became wary. The fairy wanted to keep him company if he agreed to level up. The thing was that the master was level 1. Hiroki and Lucia were shocked by his fire spell. This happens because of unstable magical energy, and he couldn't handle the spell because it got out of control. Hiroki asked to look at Manu Tita. His mana was over the limit. Everyone was in complete shock, except Titus and the fairy. The fairy assumed something like this, and perhaps if Titus raised a few levels and increased the mana limit, then the magic would stabilize and he would stop losing control over spells. There were 3 days left before the decisive match of the Overlord, and even if he started pumping right now, there would still not be enough time, but Titus said that if he did not become the Overlord of Demons, then he did not need pumping. He never expected that another candidate for the throne of the ruler would appear. That's why he decided to think about it. In the depths of the dungeon, the fairy screamed that they had no time. Hiroki began to calm her down. But his opponent will be Clyde Rickok. He is the assistant of the current chancellor and his grandson. It was a match whose winner will take the throne of the ruler, and Hiroki had already heard the name Clyde somewhere. And Lucia said, "This is that man." They saw him when they approached the city. He has a large reserve of magical powers among the sages, and he compensates for Titus's lack of magical power, and in fact his magic was amazing. As a result, to become the official ruler, it is necessary to win the match for the throne, which is in 3 days. To do this, Titus needed to level up, but he does not really want to do pumping until the decision is made on the last floor of the dungeon. Even if Titus's basic mana reserve is large, he is not an opponent to Clyde until he increases his level. The fairy asked Hiroki to convince Titus. Hiroki agreed to spawn until the end of the dungeon, and he also joined the fairy's recommendations regarding pumping. He believed that pumping would open up opportunities in the future, and if Tita did not become the official Lord of Demons, and for example, Titu could become an adventurer. Titus was surprised. In this case, Titus could go on adventures with Hiroki. Titus was pleasantly surprised again. They can visit the Pace Knot and the land of beastmen and wherever Titus wishes. Titus was surprised again, and even if he does not become the ruler, Hiroki and Lucia will help him. And then Titus agreed to raise the level as he progresses, and then the fairy said, "Lord." They came to the first floor of Titus's tower, and he showed that there was a dungeon of the royal family. The maid lifted the carpet and showed. They went into the dungeon and went down. Titus said that it can also be entered through the room of the Demon Lord's father. Suddenly, they came to a dead end, and Titus asked for Hiroki's hand. To get further, Hiroki had to hold on to someone from the royal family. It was a very well-thought-out security, and they passed through a wall. There were beautiful growing magic crystals, but only some types. They are very rare, and are an exclusive product of the demon world. There were no monsters near the entrance, and so Titus comes here for crystals. Titus said that there are other important things in this cave, but if they want to put a person unrelated to their family at the head of the country, then they plan to abandon this place. The fairy suggested joining a group, but first Hiroki needs to clarify something. Does Titus understand that the spell can get out of control? Titus answered yes, and this usually happens with fire magic. Water magic was not his strong point, so there are no problems, Hiroki said, by the way. Titus had mastered both fire and water, and Hiroki asked if it was because Titus was from the royal family. And it was, Hiroki said, to hold off on the idea of a group until they passed a couple of floors, because in the dungeon the monsters are usually weaker, and Titus and the fairy could probably defeat them alone. Hiroki wanted them to do it for the experience. Everyone was up for it. Lucia and Hiroki decided that they would take on the monsters attacking from behind. Hiroki said to kill the monsters as they moved, and Hiroki's skills were encouraging when time was running out. Slime appeared. Titus attacked him and defeated him. This was his first monster, and Hiroki decided to collect more monsters. Now there was a big slime. Fairy and Titus were shocked. They thought maybe he united with someone he grew up on his own, or it was a completely different species. In any case, this slime should fetch a lot of money. Titus attacked him with water magic and missed. He tried again and succeeded. Titus attacked him with water many times and finally defeated him. Titus was already level 5, and Hiroki suggested replenishing his mana and checking his status again. Mana was significantly reduced. Lucia was very happy and they continued. Even Titus smiled. They were already on the second floor and there were goblins. They acted as a group and everyone decided to fight together. They put on group bracelets and discussed tactics. It was also necessary to kill monsters as they moved forward. Hiroki told Titus that being near Lucia would be dangerous and they needed to keep their distance. Hiroki told them to stay put and he would maintain everyone's shield and regenerate. Titus was already beginning to feel the power and speed in his spells, and the fairy decided to join in too. She used the increase in magic, speed, attack power in order to distribute their attacks. Hiroki had it too, and they started the battle. Their leveling went like clockwork, and the levels will be gained very quickly. They came to the 5th floor. There were demonic Fenris, and Titus was a little scared. Hiroki did a skill rollback, and now it was a normal wolf, and they can move on. Titus was shocked. They arrived on the 8th floor, where there were wyverns, and they had a nest here. Hiroki was wondering if his potion worked on them. The fairy suggested continuing with the same tactics. Lucia and Titus have started fighting, and Hiroki couldn't dodge because the monsters are really strong. The shield could withstand about 5 attacks, but there was no reason to worry because Hiroki would renew the shield before the old one broke. The wyverns were already flying straight at them, but they were already dying. Lucia hit them, and then Titus used the Inferno spell. Titus defeated them and began to fall, but if he applied such a powerful spell then... He ran out of mana and apparently he was scared of the monster. It looks like that was all for today, and they could build a camp right here, but Hiroki said that it was dangerous and the fairy replied that they would create a safe zone. The fairy created a small house box and told Hiroki to carry Titus into the house. Hiroki took care of the overlord and took off his glasses and robe. None of them noticed the overlord's condition, and Phi. I knew that this could happen when I asked Lucia and Hiroki for help. It didn't matter how many levels Titus gained. He needed to get used to fighting, because that was a completely different matter. At the match, Titus will have to resist Clyde's magic, and Titus must gain experience in real battles. While he has time, Hiroki did not expect that the fairy's true face would be like this, and the fairy took it as a compliment. Thus, the Lord raised himself many levels in just one day. The fairy thanked him and Lucia for this. Titus was supported in any case. Hiroki also counted on Lucia. The next day, Titus woke up, and Hiroki and Lucia wished him good morning. He apologized for yesterday. Hiroki said that the fairy told him. Hiroki told Titus not to worry too much about it, because everyone sometimes loses consciousness due to lack of mana. Hiroki asked how about breakfast, to which Titus was not against it. Birds asked Lee if there was time left for leveling up, and Hiroki was pleasantly surprised. When asked if he had decided to become a demon lord, the lord was surprised and replied that he would think about it at the end of the dungeon, and you could tell from his face that he was scared. Hiroki and Lucia killed the rest of the wyverns while Titus was unconscious, and the experience was supposed to be awarded to Titus for them, Titus thought. There was another floor to go to where the lord needed to go, but Hiroki wondered why Titus needed to go deeper into the dungeon. The lord had no reason to hide it, and he said that he wanted to visit the graves. These were the graves of his father and mother. Hiroki and Lucia would happily go there with Titus. They were about to enter the final battle of this dungeon. Meanwhile, the Tita's mana did not exceed the additional limit of the topic, and now his spell would not get out of control, which was what Lucia, the fairy, and Hiroki himself were happy about. In the boss tactic, Hiroki had to put up a shield behind which they would hide and hit the boss with magic. Hiroki said to use fire magic to check if Titus could control it. They had to remember to replenish their potions when they had a chance to catch their breath, and off they went. Hiroki created a safety circle. Hiroki told the lord that in the match for the throne he would have to block the opponent's magic with his magic, and Titus needed to keep his cool and make decisions on how best to defend himself. Hiroki said that everything would be fine, and Titus was surprised by this. Titus looked at the wyvern in the safety circle with a serious face. The battle between Titus and the boss has begun. Titus used the Inferno spell again, but the dragon-shaped boss dodged and attacked. But this time he was able to maintain control, and the fairy suggested him to take a break and drink the potion. Titus understood what Hiroki felt during the battle, and Lucia supported Titus. And so the demonic wyverns were defeated. Everyone was very happy. Hiroki began to hug Titus out of happiness, but it was impolite to touch important people without permission, and Hiroki apologized. Titus said that they won with a smile on his face, which made Hiroki very surprised. They found the boss chest, which was under the Demon Lord's lock. Titus first found this chest in the boss room, and they opened it. There were 4 blue books for learning skills, and Titus did not understand what it was. Titus insisted that everyone take a book for themselves, under the pretext that he had not yet decided whether he would participate in the match, since only the 2 of them could get here, and therefore he did not want the reward to go to him alone. Titus suggested postponing the study of skills, and Hiroki thought that, from a good hidden dungeon, to expect something more. Everyone expected to see something completely different. They came to the 10th floor. There was a large, beautiful tree with a row of tombstones at its roots. Titus began to cry. Titus was honored to meet his father and mother again, and he sat on his knees at their graves. Everyone also sat down on their knees, and Hiroki noticed that all 3 graves were fresh. Titus decided to tell that his mother, father, and grandfather were buried here. His grandfather despised them because they were born twins, and that the throne of the Demon Lord is inherited by the eldest blood son, who has enough mana to maintain the castle, because it often happens that twins share the magical potential of one person. The lack of mana was a serious problem for future heirs, and their grandfather was strict and honored the traditions of the royal family. He also said that these children will not be demon lords. He yelled at his mother to make a new child, but she didn't agree. Grandfather didn't want to allow traditions to be broken, and if she wasn't going to have a new child, then let Titus swallow his sister, as it was believed that in the royal family, the one who lacks magical power must eat another person, taking his powers for himself. Hiroki remembered that Titus had 2 elements at once, but his mana reserve exceeded the permissible limit. Did he really eat his sister? Every day, his father's face became more and more gloomy, and so his father finally decided that Titus should absorb his sister's magical powers. His father did not know all the details, but most likely, his father could not ignore his grandfather's will. A friend of the father's gave the Tita of his sister's powers, giving her a chance to leave the country, but the grandfather did not want to put up with this. Grandpa screamed that he warned that he would kill the twins, and he ordered to have a new child. He also said that if she does not have a new child, he will not allow the fake to become the Lord of Demons. He destroyed the mother. Father shouted at grandfather why he killed her, and that he couldn't just go and find a new wife. Father told Titus to put it on and run. Father and grandfather started fighting. Grandfather called father an impenetrable idiot. There was a huge flash due to their fight. Suddenly someone called Titus, and he responded, sitting under some of his father's jacket. The sun was already rising. At that moment, Titus didn't know what to do next, and it would be better if he ate his sister. He couldn't find an answer. Titus decided to stop his mouth on himself and locked himself in the tower, and now he realized how childish his thinking was. It is completely natural for them to appoint someone from their family as the ruler of the country, and should he really become the new Lord of Demons? Titus thought. But suddenly from my father's tombstone, I misheard the phrase, "Didn't I ask you this question first?" Everyone who was nearby was very surprised. But the voice was not from the grave at all, but much higher. I think Dewey would say so. Suddenly they spotted Cruz on the tree. He was Pin's mentor and a close friend of the former Demon Lord, and only a member of the royal family could bring him here. But since he is the guardian of the great trees, he existed wherever they grow. He prays that they convinced Titus, because he flatly refused to listen to him. He told Titus to look for the answer in his memories, and remember what Dewey told him then, specifically when he took his little sister out of the castle. At that time, he was faced with the choice to let Titus eat his sister and take her powers or give birth to a new child. Otherwise, his grandfather threatened to kill the twins. The girl and the mother argued that the mother had to make a difficult decision. With the mother angrily answered the girl that she would have enough determination to become a demon lord. This meant that he would have to eat his sister, but Cruz found a way to transfer magical energy without having to eat. But still, To create the illusion of death, she had to leave the castle forever. They would have to live separately. There is no other way to save two lives. And the mother apologized for her father, calling him spineless. The twins saw how their father suffered all this time, and if there is no other way, then that is how it is. Father wanted Tito to become a demon lord. Titus was very surprised by this news. Cruz suggested that Titus sealed part of his memories due to a strong shock. His father dreamed that he would become a demon lord. Titus began to cry. Father gave Cruz something to do when Titus got here. Cruz spilled some kind of potion, and flowers started growing everywhere. Titus remembered his father, but Hiroki wondered why the former demon lord would show this to Titus. Suddenly, something like tentacles came out of the ground, and Hiroki made a safety circle. The tentacles wrapped around Lucia. Neither the dodge nor the safety circle worked on this plant. The body did not obey at all, and Titus himself was very scared. And suddenly, Hiroki activated the spell to exclude everyone against him, and suddenly Lucia and Titus were pushed out of the safety circle. The tentacles were moving in Hiroki's brain. His memories were being forcibly extracted. The safety circle disappeared, and the outline of a man told him to forgive his crude methods. It was the mind body of the demon lord Dewey. It was Titus's father's thought body, born from his physical body, something like a spiritual alter ego. He had already learned the memories of Hiroki associated with Tito, and was convinced that Hiroki could be trusted. He also said that Tito had not left the tower since birth, and therefore had no experience interacting with people. He was worried about the thought that he had not learned to understand them. Father expressed gratitude for supporting and leading Tito and received a bet for it. Hiroki shouted that it would be better for him to talk not to him but to Tito. But Father said that he should talk to his main body, and doesn't Hiroki want to say that something happened to him? Thoughts were created during the life of the original, and he has no memories of the moment of death. Suddenly, from this darkness, Titus pulled Hiroki by the hand and shouted that he came to his rescue. To defeat the enemy together. Suddenly, the two of them found themselves in the darkness, and Titus heard his father's voice. Hiroki explained to him that this was a thought body created by Dewey. He didn't know what had been happening for the last few years. His father thought that Titus trusted Hiroki, to which Titus remained silent. Well, suddenly, Titus said that he trusted Hiroki, and his father told him that he had made a good friend. Father said that based on Hiroki's words, he decided that something had happened to his body, and that there was some kind of problem. Titus clenched his fist in anger, but the guy said that he would become a great demon lord, and his father wouldn't have to worry about anything. He told his father to rest in peace, to which his father replied that this was a good answer. Hiroki looked at Titus and smiled.